This is Yang Soo-hyuk, the only guy capable of taking down an empire on his own. On top of that, he unified the continent of Hwan using martial arts, so powerful that people thought he was a god. He had wealth, glory, entire armies kneeling before him, and still, he was bored of it all. So he decided to leave the throne and go back to Earth, the place he came from before falling into this world. But to do that, he needed the help of this shiny-headed dark sorcerer to cast the dimensional travel spell. The old man asked why he wanted to go back to being a mere human. Soo-hyuk kept it simple. He missed his family. The old man activated the orb and did his thing. The MC had been waiting for this moment for a long time, and he's finally going back to Earth. The lights went out. The first sound Soo-hyuk heard was a machine. He opened his eyes, recognized the Korean letters on the calendar, and was glad the spell had worked. When he tried to get up, his body felt like it had been hit by a truck. Looking in the mirror, he finds out the black sage didn't hold up his end of the deal and didn't return the body at the right time. So he used his secret technique to channel energy and fix the messed up body he was stuck in. After a few minutes, he already felt a lot better, and his face looked way more decent too. He opens the system and gets a shock because now he's rank A, when he used to be rank SS. He gets mad because he was sent back at the wrong time. A minute later, nurses show up at the door. Our boy calls out to them, and the nurses freak out like they're looking at a zombie. The doctor arrived shortly after, ran the exam and checked to see if everything was okay. All that concerned because he had been unconscious for 5 years. Hyuk couldn't believe that the bald old man sent him 5 years later than he should have. The guy just froze up, not saying a word. The doctor left and he was still standing there, paralyzed. But then someone opened the door. It was his little sister, Sutura, crying and staring at him, unable to believe that he had finally woken up. Hyuk tells her everything is fine. She then starts explaining about an impact portal that happened 5 years ago. It opened a crater in the middle of the city and destroyed everything around it. In the middle of the chaos, she looked up and saw multiple portals in the sky. Warriors came pouring in to fight the monsters. Now 5 years later, the world changed a lot because of that event. Hyuk realizes he has a lot to catch up on, because now on Earth there are even people selling canned farts on the internet. Changing the subject, he asks about school. Sukeo says she didn't go to college, and has been working to make money instead. The protagonist notices she's lying but lets it go. After hours of talking, he starts having flashbacks of the last time he saw his dad, who was always working while all he wanted to do was play, but his dad never had time for that. He was a failed writer who never made it, spent his whole life wanting to be a poet, but never pulled it off. As Hyuk grew up, he started speaking his mind to the point where he was no longer proud to call him his father. One day he was walking down the street when the first portal appeared right behind him and pulled him in. His dad showed up trying to save him, but it was already too late. That was the last time he ever saw the man. Now his dad walks into the room, drops the bag on the floor, and with a cracking voice apologized for not having enough money to give his son better treatment. Soo-hyuk cried like a little kid and told him it wasn't his fault. The two of them hugged. 3 days later, Soo-hyuk was discharged from the hospital. The family had moved to a place much more humble than he remembered. 5 years of hospital bills had drained the family's finances, so he made a decision. He needed money as fast as possible. In this new world full of portals and dungeons, people with special abilities had become the new elite, so the fastest way to make serious money was becoming a hunter. The problem was that his body still had 90% physical contamination from the prolonged coma. But that didn't stop him. He spent days running up and down those stairs. Even so, the progress was slow. Then he thought about his family, who was working just to pay off the hospital bills. That's when he channeled his energy, strengthened his spirit, and started running again without stopping. No matter the pain, he's not giving up. The sun was already setting, and he was still going up and down those stairs. People were starting to talk. After days of running, he finally gains +1 in strength and stamina. On top of that, his level went up to 2, and with that his body fully recovered. Now he can become a hunter. The next day, at the Hunter Association building, he heads straight to the registration room. Soon, his work gets interrupted. Soo-hyuk walks into the room talking about the test. Without much enthusiasm, the man explains that he has to put his hand on the orb, and if it lights up, he's awakened. The ex-emperor believes a lot of people go there thinking they're special, but they're not yet. Because of the window, he knows he is one. And just as expected, the orb shines under his touch. The man congratulates him and says he'll register him right then. First, handing him a form to sign. Soo-hyuk thinks the process is easier than expected, since he only had to confirm the presence of mana. Soon he fills out the paper, and when he's done, he hands it over. But something seems off. The man says he's still level 1, and yet he has 32 skills registered, so the ex-emperor asks if that's a problem. He says no, just that it doesn't make sense, and fed up tells him not to mess with him. Soo-hyuk thought the number was a bit high, but he didn't think it was that weird, and it's disappointing that they don't believe him. So he asks if he can put the window in public mode to prove it. The man says it's possible, but he wants to understand what he's planning with that. In response, Soo-hyuk immediately shows his window, shocking him. There are so many that it leaves the man genuinely stunned. realizing there really are more than 10 skills, and even crazier, that they're all rank A or higher. Soo-hyuk asks if he believes him now, and the man agrees, saying he'll do the registration as fast as possible, and he even apologizes for not recognizing him earlier. As promised, it's done and passed along to someone else. To Ocean Woo from the Hunters Association, the man asks if this is really what he's seeing, and the other one confirms he saw it with his own eyes, and that it's all absolutely true. He looks at the form one more time, at the person's name. The redhead thinks it's been a long time since such an interesting rookie showed up. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk is outside, running through the city to get back. Doing that run from the association to home makes him feel like his heart is going to explode. At least his stamina went up by 1, and the system rewards are good, and he even thinks that at this rate he'll end up with diabetes. The ex-emperor also thought he could start hunting immediately after registering, but that wasn't the case, because you need to complete a basic training course. This is a national measure to prevent people from getting wiped out when they enter dungeons without preparation and knowledge. It starts at the end of every month. Right now it's still October 26, with only 5 days left. Soo-hyuk knows he doesn't need this training, but it's a procedure that can't be avoided. So until then he plans to train a lot and get his body in even better shape. The ex-emperor needs to do this for his family, and also for himself. And just like that, the 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. There are more people at the place than he expected. After all, he heard some people avoid it because it's really dangerous. But that's not a problem for him. Suddenly, something catches his attention. He wonders what that thing was that passed by him like some kind of energy. Everyone is surprised by a voice saying there are a total of 48 participants there. A blonde woman watches them. With an imposing stance, she asks everyone to look forward. The participants are surprised by the elf. At least one girl is captivated, thinking she's unbelievably beautiful. The moment Soo-hyuk felt her presence, she had already arrived at that place. He couldn't even track her movements. The ex-emperor believes there's something more than just speed, and that maybe it was a unique elf ability. With a smile, the guy finds that interesting. Something catches the elf's attention. She notices young Soo-hyuk among everyone. The association's order is for everyone to keep an eye on him, and she knows that even though he's level 1, he briefly detected her presence. Even among promising elves, she's never seen a case this intriguing. Meanwhile, the others are in awe since they've never seen an elf before, and they think she has such a unique kind of beauty. She asks everyone to be quiet and pay attention. Soo-hyuk is paying attention to everything. The elf explains that she's there by a special request from Korea to serve as the main instructor for this basic training course. She introduces herself as Shahar Koleluriat, a great warrior of Elvenheim, and says she's looking forward to training the Earthlings. Because her full name is really long, she asks people to just call her Shar. Soo-hyuk thinks the name sounds like a puppy's name, so it's cute. The girl keeps thinking the elf is really pretty, and the redhead looks like he's not very friendly. Shar says it's the first time an elf has taken part in a program on Earth, so she knows they'll have questions, but she'll only answer 3 questions. Right away, a hand goes up. It's the excited girl again. Soo-hyuk is surprised to see an elementary school student there. Shar says she likes her energy and asks her name. The girl introduces herself as Bak A-yoon, 19 years old. Hearing that makes the other participants surprised that someone so young is being trained. Soo-hyuk feels a little embarrassed, since the girl is actually a high school student. Meanwhile, the elf asks what her question is, but Yoon just uses her time to compliment how beautiful she is. More beautiful than any person or elf she's ever seen, even if Shar is the first. That leaves the instructor confused. The girl gives a small smile. Shar says that's a really unusual way to speak, because instead of asking a question, the girl just complimented her. The elf says she's the first sword of the great Kaliluriat family, and says that's why she'd rather be seen as a warrior than just a woman. Then she moves on to the next question. A few other participants raise their hands, and she ends up choosing the scary-looking redhead. Shar says it's because he raised his hand first. Her choice leaves the others shocked. Watching the guy, Soo-hyuk wonders if he's being kind of old-fashioned for thinking tattoos don't make a good impression. The redhead introduces himself as Jin Chang-hyuk, and he starts by saying his question might be a little weird. He wants to know if criminals can also take part in the training, because he read it depends on the instructor's criteria. Curious, Shar asks what kind of crime he committed. A little embarrassed, Chang-hyuk says he stole some things. Shar, surprised, says she won't recommend stealing, and she promises it won't be used unfairly against him there, and says that in Elvenheim, rule breakers have 2 choices. The first is to serve their relatives. The second is to fight on the battlefield to protect it. What she says grabs everyone's attention. She tells Chang-hyuk that the reason he came is because he chose the second option. The elf says where she's from, they call that Langdare, and on Earth it's honorable repentance. Shar says that because of his sin he has to work harder than the others, but he must never forget his crime. She says to remember it and always act with honor, adding that it can't be erased, but that doesn't mean it can't be forgiven. Her words hit the redhead. Chang-hyuk says he understands and thanks her for it. With that, she asks for the last question. Right away a hand goes up. Shar is impressed by how fast it was, and asks the name. This time it's Yong Soo-hyuk. With a small smile, the the elf reveals she's keeping an eye on him, making some people wonder if the two of them know each other. A bit suspicious, the ex-emperor asks if she has a personal interest in him. Char asks if that's the last question. But Soo-hyuk says no, because he has something else. He asks if she's the only instructor to train all the recruits there. Char says no, and says she understands his concern, explaining that even though she's the head instructor, she can't teach every subject by herself. She says there will be regular people assisting, and for combat training, she can personally lead a team. Soo-hyuk thinks she's like a school principal and also a teacher at the same time. So Xiaobei ends the questions. Suddenly, a guy says he doesn't trust the elf. Xiaobei just watches the scene, curious. The guy asks if he's wrong for that, saying she's not human, so she shouldn't be trusted to be the trainer. He says the elf isn't a proven ranker in the country like the other instructors, and judging by her looks he doubts she even knows how to fight. Confident, he says she seems more suited for something very different than the battlefield. The elf is ready to prove her ability to him. Xiaobei says if that's what he needs then she'll show him. Lit up by a green energy, the elf stretches her hand toward him. The man feels blinded by the light, and she doesn't even need that much effort to take everyone down. They get scared when they can't move their bodies. As for the troublemaker, he can't even breathe. Xiaobei says proving yourself is important, but she also believes discipline is just as crucial. As a final warning, she says that the first time she can understand it as a mistake, but if it happens again, she won't show any mercy. The man even pees his pants like a scared little kid. She even finds it kind of funny, but something catches her attention. One single person stayed standing after her little attack. The elf is impressed that she used that to intimidate them, and yet the guy still held on, especially for a level 1. That's when she understands why she needs to keep an eye on him, and she believes that like this, he could already be in battle. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk wonders if he should have pretended to fall, since it got kind of awkward. To Char, determination and skill are two different things, and instead of judging him, she decides she'll watch him more. The others are just relieved they can move again. So the elf wraps up the introductions. She warns that during the training period, she doesn't want to see any frowns on their faces. The recruits feel a bit intimidated. Char turns to leave after saying she'll see them in the next class. Another day comes, and they're at the association building. The recruits are in class studying about monsters. They introduce a creature of the Delino type. Soo-hyuk can't focus in class, especially since it's been so long since the last time he was in a classroom. He just wants to go into a real battle. His attitude doesn't go unnoticed by the head instructor. A strong blast of energy is fired at him. The elf doesn't let anything slip by. After punishing the guy even though he only nodded off for a second, he wonders if he really shouldn't have gotten distracted in class. Even so, Soo-hyuk never liked sitting at a desk and studying. Soon something distracts him again. Chang-hyuk looks a bit suspicious, glancing around. That makes Soo-hyuk think he noticed something. But the ex-emperor realizes he took a look at his notes and thinks the redhead is more shy than he thought. Another recruit gets punished by Char. She also calls out Soo-hyuk, telling him to pay attention to the instructor's class. The ex-emperor thinks she's way too strict and harsh, believing the two of them won't get along. Finally, the day's class ends. The teacher asks them not to forget to review, because for some reason every year people end up failing the written test. Pretty exhausted, the recruits agree with him. Excited, the teacher thinks that in all his years teaching theory, he's never seen a class this focused. Xiaobei is proud of her colleagues' good work. Soo-hyuk packs up his things. Right then, someone catches his attention. All excited, Yi-won calls him Uppata. Once again he asks if she's an elementary school student. The girl yells that she's in high school, and even calls him an old man. Then Soo-hyuk remembers her saying she was 19. That's enough to set her off again. Getting straight to the point, the ex-emperor asks what she wants with him. Yi-won says that on the day of Char's attack, he was the only one who stayed standing, which surprises him that she noticed. Jung-hyuk also admits he saw it, and thought it was amazing. The girl asks her Uppa if his heart is made of iron, and asks how he managed to endure that. Soo-hyuk just says he has a heart like anyone else's, and that it was probably just luck. The redhead says he's humble about it, and thinks that's really cool. Taking the chance, Soo-hyuk asks if he was watching the whole class because of that, and the ex-thief apologizes since he was just impressed. But Soo-hyuk says he doesn't need to apologize and thinks maybe the guy isn't as bad as he thought. Still full of energy, young Ai-yun-shing asks if he wants to have lunch together, and she even jokes that they're the question trio. But the ex-emperor turns down the invite, saying he needs to go. The girl thinks it's unfair for him to use his skills to run away. Chang-hyuk thinks he's pretty charismatic, while the girl thinks the old man is really mean. The theory classes last 30 days. That period can't be shortened or extended, since it's the government's education policy. He just wants to move around on a battlefield, but after hearing that a lot of people fail the test, he wants to study to be the best. The ex-emperor even thanks the elf for making it impossible to slack off, and he heard from the instructors that the class has a high pass rate, but he also knows that doesn't mean everyone will pass. The exam isn't that hard, but you can't pass without studying. Aiwan is scared, saying there's a curse where if you fail even once, you'll keep failing forever. She thinks that's horrible, and asks her Appa if he feels his soul trembling with fear. Out of patience, Soo-hyuk tells her not to fail, and says he thinks he understands why some people fail. What he says makes the girl curious, so the ex-emperor looks at what's going on. Some people are planning to have dinner and drinks together, and someone even suggests they cram for the exam at the last minute. That makes the girl understand what he meant. Soo-hyuk says he's heading out and asks if that's why she skipped the study group. Aiwon thinks Appa is really cold. The ex-emperor already apologized, and besides, spending time with family is his priority. On top of that, this is the happiness he fought to get back, and he doesn't plan on losing it again. A month passed, and soon the day of the written test arrived. Xiaobei-suk says the results will come out the same day, and that's making him really nervous. Aiwon starts making weird noises, and the redhead asks why she has to say that out loud when he's already nervous enough. The girl asks if saying it out loud is really going to make him like that. Looking awkward, he confirms it, basically handing the girl ammo. So she starts annoying him by making the thump sound over and over. Xiaobei-suk asks them to be quiet because the results are about to come out. Xiaobei-suk keeps arguing with the annoying girl. On the list, names come up like Yu Ri, Shu-hyuk, Xiaobei, Jin-ah, So-hee. Aiwon celebrates passing the written exam. The ex-emperor says she always looked like she was messing around, and asks how she got such a high score. And smiling, the girl says a genius works better when nobody's watching. Even though he thinks it's ridiculous, Shu-hyuk agrees she's not totally wrong. Suddenly something demands his attention. Xiaobei-suk is crying because he passed, happy that he can proudly tell his brothers. In the end, that makes the other two happy for him. Seeing that, Shu-hyuk realizes that even though he had a bad first impression, the redhead is a good guy. As they got closer, the ex-emperor learned his story. Xiaobei-suk is the only one who feeds his 3 younger brothers. Because of alcohol, his father died, and his mother, because of the violence she suffered at home, chose to run away and was never seen again. So since his second year of high school, he's taking care of the kids, and people said what he's been through made him look like a delinquent. But Soo-hyuk knows how responsible and good he is, and that his arrest was because he stole to feed his brothers, but he was released soon after. After that, he started working right away to pay off his debts, proving he's a decent person. Soo-hyuk says he's been through a lot, and since he's more confident with physical work now, he should push himself a little more. Chang-hyuk thanks him for everything. A little shy, the ex-emperor asks what he even did, since Chang-hyuk made all the effort to get there on his own. Then the redhead says that seeing him work so hard motivated him, and thanks him again. Soo-hyuk says flattery won't work. Jung congratulates everyone, and says the trio is finally going to practical training. Jung-hyuk also thanks the girl, since she worked hard every day helping him study after class. Hearing that leaves Soo-hyuk pretty surprised, realizing she really wasn't messing around the whole time. The redhead's phone starts ringing. He tells his little brother he passed, saying the hard part is over, and he'll do his best. While listening, Soo-hyuk thinks he should bring him back down to earth, but he's sure he'll be fine. Even though not everything was easy. Out of 49 participants, only 42 passed, and he heard the average pass rate is 50%. He believes that's because of the huge impact instructor Shar had, who he thinks is an excellent teacher. A lot of people thought they really wouldn't be able to pass. The elf keeps an eye on him. Soo-hyuk knows the real challenge starts next week, with practical training. And that's going to be pretty interesting. And just like that, the week flew by. Shar will be in charge of Squad 8, and the trio is already there, ready for anything. Shan-hyuk says it's fascinating, and asks how everyone ended up together there. The elf says she personally chose each squad, thinking it was better to group people with similar temperaments. But she says being on Team 8 was fate, since it was picked by lottery, and says it must be a blessing from the world tree guiding them. Excited as always, Yi-Zhen says this really is destiny. Shar gives a small smile and says it's definitely a big destiny. Then she says that doesn't mean she'll show any mercy in training. That leaves the two of them pretty scared about what's coming. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk wonders if she's about to make the discipline strict because she understands they're about to enter real combat. Shar starts by saying they'll be going into the portal, and asks the redhead to explain what it is. In a few words, Shan-hyuk says it's an entrance to another world. The elf says he's right, however not all portals are the same. Then she asks Cadet Soo-hyuk if he remembers last week's lecture. The former emperor starts by saying portals are classified into 2 types, friendly and hostile. Among them, the hostile ones are ranked from 1 to 13, and the higher it is, the more dangerous it is. Shar is pleased that the least focused ones are answering well, and warns that for training they'll be entering a rank 1 hostile portal. Yi Yunxing gets really excited hearing that. The elf asks the girl what she knows about it. Yi Yunxing says it has weaker monsters and lower density, so it's used as a training dungeon for candidates like them. Shar asks if she's right about it being very easy, and the girl agrees. With a scary look, the elf asks if that means the monsters inside the dungeon can't kill people. The two don't know what to say, so Soo-hyuk is the one who answers that they can. The elf says he's correct and shows that that's why they give off something like that. Then Shar shows murderous intent, an energy that's way too strong and dangerous, but Soo-hyuk seems to be the only one who's fine with it. The elf is shocked that he's standing firm in front of it. Meanwhile, the former emperor wonders if he should pretend he's struggling against it, at least a little. So that's what he does, but the Squad 8 instructor says he doesn't need to pretend. She says it might seem unfamiliar, but cadets like them have to get used to it. Char says if they can't adapt to the intent they give off, then one day they'll be taken out sooner and easier than they expect. The three understand what she means. Having watched everything, Char says that aside from one person, they all seem to have prepared well. She says she didn't expect everyone to endure the killing intent, and so she asks if any of them have been in battle before. Soo-hyuk answers that he's been through something similar, but Char says it wasn't just similar enough to endure it, and that he must be hiding something. She says she doesn't mind a man with secrets, but it's good that he has the skill and stamina to handle it. Then Team 8 heads out into the streets. Char says if they run at top speed they can reach the destination, the Mapo station portal, in an hour, and Soo-hyuk asks if they're running there. Then the elf says she doesn't know how to use public transportation and can't even drive, and besides, running is a good warm-up before a fight. She tells Soo-hyuk he's the leader and should guide his teammates, and warns that in 1 hour they'll meet at Mapo station. Char then goes on ahead, leaving them there. With not much choice, all that's left is to run, but Ayun-shing says she doesn't want to do it. Anyway, the guys leave her behind. Finally they arrive at the meeting spot. Ayun and Chang-hyuk are exhausted, while for the former emperor, nothing seems to have shaken him. The elf is already there waiting for them, and says they arrived faster than she expected, with an excellent result, only 10 minutes short. They're ready to enter the portal. Chang-hyuk comments that he thought he was going to die of exhaustion, and the girl is in the same situation. Soo-hyuk notices that before they seemed extremely tense because of the intent, but right now, thanks to the run, their muscles seem looser. Because of that he wonders if it was all intentional. If so, he thinks the elf is even better as an instructor, and that the chief title was for a good reason. Shire calls out to her cadets. She warns that the 10 minutes have passed. The elf asks if they're ready to go in, and excited they all agree. Then she touches a kind of key. A secret door opens, and she declares for them to proceed immediately. Chang-hyuk and the girl look a little suspicious. The name of the rank 1 dungeon located at Mapo Station is Mugye, literally meaning a world without borders. Through his studies, Soo-hyuk learned something interesting. There are many dimensions in this world that are called Mugye, a world abandoned by everyone, unworthy even of having a name. Soo-hyuk heard that even in places like that, sometimes intelligent civilizations are discovered that used to thrive long ago. Naturally, that made the former emperor think of something. He wonders if Mugye is a world that was created from the destruction of another. Soo-hyuk believes that might be the case. To him that's going to be really interesting. The place has hard ground and a reddish sky, not inviting at all. At the entrance, there's the portal, and Team 8 goes through it. This is Mugye after breaking into Mapo Station, with the base temperature being under 2 degrees, even though it looks like the start of hell. Shao warns them to be careful, because they don't know when the enemy might show up. The monsters that live there are called Naro. They're canine type, around 3 meters tall, and as you'd expect from a creature like that, their main way of attacking is biting. Their main traits are their ability to make huge jumps, and the fact that they usually move in groups of 3 to 5. Even though it's a level 1 dungeon, for newbie awakened ones the creatures can be hard to deal with. For Soo-hyuk, they don't seem like a threat. The system window opens. Thanks to the prep period for the written exam, his stats improved a bit overall, and most importantly, his awakening is powerful. An additional 20% buff effect is applied. Even though he thought it was weird, the increase was surprisingly good. He also knows that compared to the other awakened ones, his combat power is very high. If you add his understanding of martial arts and combat experience, his real strength could reach even first-class warriors. It only took a month to get all that power back. There's no reason not to be confident in a rank 1 dungeon. Even lost in thought, he manages to pick up on something. Soo-hyuk asks everyone to stop. He says guests are coming. Soon the creatures are spotted coming toward them. Chang-hyuk comments that there are 5 of them, and Char says that with his skills he should be able to take them down without any injuries, and tells him not to get tense but to focus. Then she tells Squad 8 to get ready for combat. The team captain tells them not to rush, and to move only when the monsters are within their field of view. But Soo-hyuk already finds that boring, wanting a bit of fun by beating them alone and really fast. Still he follows orders. Besides, his teammates don't have weapons. He heard they provide them during live training if needed. He didn't take one because he prefers fighting bare-handed, and he wonders if the other 2 have any skill that doesn't need weapons. Either way, the canine monsters are coming in full speed. After waiting for the right moment, Char declares it's time to fight. Suddenly, iron claws come out of Chang-hyuk. The redhead runs straight at the beasts. Soo-hyuk watches it all, impressed. Meanwhile, Ayun serves as the healer or support. Seeing that, he realizes it's time for him to move too. The former emperor is wrapped in his blue aura, using the movement technique, Gale Step. Soo-hyuk is so fast he passes Chang-hyuk, who was well ahead of him. He's going to use the training to check his current condition. The first monster tries to attack. He quickly dodges the bite. Soo-hyuk uses the palm technique, iron-shattering palm shockwave strike, and then the piercing attack breakthrough. He finishes off the first monster, and another one shows up right away. This one is about to bite him with its very sharp teeth. Soo-hyuk jumps high, dodging the creature's attack like that. The former emperor uses that to counterattack, throwing a whirlwind kick. The monster is easily defeated. smashed into the ground like an old carpet. His teammates are pretty impressed. Same with Char, who suspects he's not really just a trainee, and even wonders if he's human. In so little time, the former emperor took down 2, but the other creatures are still left. The monster goes into attack. Soo-hyuk turns to look at it. Then he moves from where he is, going to face the beast head on. The creature seems surprised. Then Soo-hyuk uses his Iron Fist staff, basic techniques, striking without mercy with the Chainbreaker attack. The beast is torn apart by the former emperor. Watching the fight, shocked, Char thinks she should be feeling greedy, but really this is driving her crazy over the human she wants to take to Elvenheim. Soo-hyuk wonders if all of this is because he relearned a martial art he'd already mastered before. Since his body is doing better than he expected, he figures the system support must be doing its part too, and he knows that this way he could go to Huan and be among the first. But all he's got left are the last 2 creatures. Soo-hyuk would love to take them all down, but this is group combat training, and it'd ruin the point if he did everything alone. To the former emperor, this is just a test, but his teammates need real combat experience. The 2 of them are completely shocked by Soo-hyuk's attitude. Sang-hyuk quickly thinks his teammate is giving them a chance, so once again, he summons his sharp claws. The redhead draws the remaining monster's attention. He waits patiently for the creatures to come. His claws start to glow red hot. All of a sudden, the creature makes a quick move. Taeyun warns Oppa that the monster is attacking from behind. Its fangs are already ready to bite him. His arm gets swallowed by the huge mouth. Sang-hyuk wonders when the thing even moved. A few drops of red liquid fall to the ground, but the student is ready to deal with it. Aiyun heals his wounds with her skill. He's genuinely surprised by the effect. Watching that, Soo-hyuk wants to know if it's a healing skill, which is a good thing, but they still aren't safe. More beasts are closing in. These look even fiercer, not giving them even a second to breathe. At least they've adapted, and it's time to clean up the mess. Squad 8 now fights side by side. It's calm outside the station. Finally they get out of there. The girl and the redhead are tired and want to go back home. Soo-hyuk gets it. After all, they had 6 battles in their first real combat session. With a smile, the elf congratulates them on the good work, and says Earth's awakened really are extraordinary, just like she'd heard. The trio doesn't get why she's suddenly acting like this. Char says that besides the stamina loss, their combat skills improved, which is usually impossible. Like always, the newbies don't understand. But to a former emperor of the entire continent, it was nothing, and he thought it was just talent, though he wonders if the system has been helping with that. Char says she believes they'll all be able to enter a real combat deployment very soon, and as an instructor she feels proud. In the end, she tells them they can go home. That gets Chung-hyuk and Ye-yeon really excited. However, she calls Soo-hyuk over because she wants to say something. The guy turns around to see what she wants. She says that from what she's seen, his fighting style doesn't seem to rely on a system, and it's more structured like a real martial art. Char says that if he's not comfortable with the question, it's totally fine not to answer. But he says he honestly doesn't mind. So Soo-hyuk confirms that he's been training martial arts. That's what the elf expected, but she remembers that in recent years the guy was in a coma, and she wonders how he could have learned so fast. To be honest, she doesn't really buy it, but she knows the universe is vast, and there are lots of things she can't understand. Soo-hyuk asks if something's wrong, and she says no. She just thought he's an incredible genius. The former emperor says he's heard that plenty of times, but that was on the continent of Huan. Xiaobei says what was impressive was how he cared that his teammates could gain experience too. With a small smile he says he's the leader. The elf shoots back, that just because someone's given responsibility doesn't mean they can actually live up to it properly, the way he did. She says he's a lovely man, leaving the former emperor with a red face, trying to hide what the compliment did to him. He says the elf is exaggerating. Xiaobei is really kind in what she says. The former emperor can't help thinking about how unbelievably beautiful the elf is. Beauty he's never seen, not even in Huan. But now's not the time to think about that. Besides, there's something more important. Today's hunt was definitely satisfying, and he feels even more eager for more. After all, not long ago he was considered the strongest martial artist in the history of the continent of Huan. He understands he's recovering fast, and there's still that constant thirst, but Soo-hyuk shouldn't rush things, even if he's a bit impatient. He knows he just needs to take it one step at a time. A melody echoes across the beautiful field. Soo-hyuk carries a strange creature. To him at this pace, he can make 10 million won a month. They're on the 3rd day of combat training, and the team has already cleared several first and second class open dungeons on the first try. They also made money selling the byproducts from the process. Monster bodies have some practical value, just like land animals, so Soo-hyuk managed to save up a pretty good amount of cash, but for now he plans to keep it hidden from his family. Anyway, it's not too late to tell them when the time is right. Aiyun calls out to her master, worried, and even though it's strange, he says yes. The girl says he looks really excited, especially considering the situation. Watching the scene, a little embarrassed, the former emperor says it looks like she's kind of right. Soo-hyuk still tries to convince himself that it's all about the money, after all. Suddenly Shower shows up behind them and says the current situation seems a bit dangerous. Aiyun says she's jealous of how well her teammates adapted. especially the redhead, who seemed to struggle a lot at first. Deep down, Soo-hyuk knows everything the guy does is for money. An arrow comes flying toward them. The former emperor's eyes are alert to everything. Distracted, Chang-hyuk says even the second series ones aren't that important. And Soo-hyuk grabs the arrow before it hits his partner. Something strange is going on with the object. He feels something like energy. Soo-hyuk says it's not just a goblin arrow, it's a human shot. Two guys show up, one of them holding a spear. They're impressed the creatures have already been wiped out. Soo-hyuk thinks they're from Team 3 and wants to understand why they're there. They claim they're missing one creature to level up. Someone arrives asking if this is Squad 8. Jen Chae-yeon from the team seems kind of charmed by the elf. Sha asks if they're with instructor John Soo-jung and says she doesn't remember requesting help. She wants to know what they're doing there. Kim Chol-ik asks if they really need a request and argues it's better to hunt together and says she isn't their instructor. Ai-yeon thinks it's ridiculous, asking if he didn't realize her Oppa Chang-hyuk was put in danger because of them. Chae-yeon says she's sorry about what happened, claiming they didn't mean it. But the elf looks irritated by all of it. Another person shows up and says the team already apologized for what happened. John Soo-jung from the Imugi Guild, and Team 3's instructor asks if she wants to lecture her team. Char says that's obvious. After all, he's still in charge, and has the duty to train and guide all the trainees. The woman says she's cold like the flower of death, and that kids can make mistakes. Char says even if that's the reason, it's still a clear threat, so there should be a proper apology, not to mention they interfered in the battle. Hearing that, the woman says that's why stubbornness is the reason she doesn't want to talk to elves, and tells her not to cross the line with each other. Char reminds her she's the head instructor of the entire training program, and the only one crossing the line is her. Soo-jung says she doesn't understand, acting all high and mighty like an old man, and tells them to take all the products, since to her they're all filthy. Before leaving, the woman says if she doesn't like it she can just complain to the Emogi Guild. That makes the elf angry. She yells after the woman, who doesn't even listen. The sun is already almost gone from the sky, and they're back on land. Chang-hyuk surprises him by thanking him for what happened earlier. With a small smile, Soo-hyuk says it was the right thing to do. The redhead says one day he'll invite him out to eat. Awkwardly, the former emperor says that would be too much trouble. Suddenly, Ai-yeon shows up asking if they're going to ditch her again, saying they're unbelievable. The guys look surprised she's there because they thought the girl had left. Ai-yeon comes down the stairs furious, saying she only went to the bathroom and expected the three of them to leave together. Trying to make up for it, Soo-hyuk suggests they eat together. Soon the next day arrives. Soo-hyuk is already taking out the dungeon monsters, which makes his level go up. Every time that happens, he gets stronger. He feels even more ready for a real fight, and knows that at this pace he'll get back to a high level in martial arts and be ready to tell his family. But right now, something isn't right. His instructor blocks an arrow for him. Char yells at Soo-hyuk that she'd seen her a long time ago. She knows where the woman is. Soo-hyuk shows up apologizing, but says it wasn't a mistake. Char Yeln says she got orders to shoot in this direction, but didn't know they were there, apologizing for that, causing a small uproar in Team 8. And the elf says it looks like a provocation. Soo-hyuk says they provoked her first, because she found out she contacted the guildmaster because of yesterday's incident. Char says that if someone commits a crime, it's natural they'll be held responsible. Then an aura surrounds the woman, who says there's no way to talk to the elf, and asks if she should just wipe them all out. Still calm, Char says she knows the instructor doesn't like her, but things are going way past what's acceptable. The elf asks if the reason for all this is Seong-moon-hyuk, since she heard Soo-hyuk has feelings for him. That pisses Soo-hyuk off, and she tells her to shut up, so Soo-hyuk realizes he's in the middle of a love fight. Meanwhile, Char says the Imugi Guild won't protect her forever, so she tells her to apologize and back off while she still can. But like a challenge, the other woman asks if she doesn't, the elf will take her out. Char denies it, but says she will be punished. Annoyed, Soo-hyuk asks who she thinks she is to do that. Then she fires at them. Team 8 is shocked by the use of dark techniques. None of them move even with the energy coming right at them. Char says that after this, there's no going back. She's wrapped in a bright aura and fires back at her opponent. Soo-hyuk asks impressed that the elf managed to block the attack so easily. She can't back down now that she's made it this far, and besides, because of the other one's reputation, she knows she won't be killed. Then the woman yells for Team 3 to attack Team 8. Soo-hyuk says if it's necessary, they should break their limbs. They're a little taken aback by the order, not thinking it's a good idea. With an evil look, the woman asks if they don't want to join the Emogi Guild. Soo-hyuk says an arm or a leg will be enough, telling them to bring her good results. That's enough to make them agree. Then the trio goes on the attack. Char is really confident even with the threat, which makes Soo-hyuk furious. Then she yells that she'll show the elf her precious trainees getting crushed. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk notices the group has a warrior and an archer, but he still doesn't know about the other one. Suddenly the ground starts cracking. Sha-wook goes through a weird transformation, getting even stronger, leaving Team 8 pretty impressed. They'll have to deal with a transformation user. Already ready for battle, Soo-hyuk says he'll handle the giant pig and the archer, and asks for cover against the other enemy. The big guy yells for him to come, saying he'll smash him into pieces. Soo-hyuk dodges the first attack, moving fast and jumping to the other side. The big guy turns around and throws another punch, but it's nothing to a former emperor. Soo-hyuk uses the skill iron, crushing fist. Then he aims the punch at Jung-wook, causing a shock as their forces collide. The big guy gets thrown back. Jung-wook spits his own life fluid out of his mouth. Soo-hyuk doesn't miss the chance to clown him and say he actually took the punch. The big guy admits his opponent is way too fast, so he needs to use another form. He yells to his partner, Chae-yeon. The girl is already ready. She fires a powerful energized arrow at the guy. Soo-hyuk stays in the same spot. The shot reaches him and explodes in lights. Jung-wook has a confident smile. The smoke slowly clears. Then they realize the arrow only hit the ground. A voice calls him a pig. It's Soo-hyuk popping up out of nowhere, asking what he's looking for. The former emperor drops straight onto the big guy with a punch. Jung-wook hits the ground, knocked out. Chae-yeon is shocked her partner went down so easily. The former emperor has a terrifying look. Scared, the girl asks him not to come closer. The guy kicks the air. With his skill gale rebound kick, a long-range attack that knocks the girl down. Seeing her condition, Soo-hyuk gives an awkward laugh, thinking he overdid it a bit. He hears someone's voice begging to be spared. It's Cholik, asking the redhead with claws to show mercy, saying he didn't want to do this, and they were just forced. Soo-hyuk grabs him before anything could happen. The former emperor tells him to calm down, but Chang-hyuk says he's not a monster, he's a person. Suddenly, like he changed, he apologizes. Your opponent is down on the ground. Jung-wook is back to normal, and the girl is still shaking in pain. Meanwhile, the squad captain can't believe what just happened. Cher still trusts her team's skills. Soo-hyuk asks if it's all over. Either way, there isn't much left of Team 3. A meeting is held at the Baekdusan Guild, in the vice president's office. The man gets the news about the battle that happened between the teams. He asks if everyone understood the situation. Everyone was impressed by what they saw in the video, with their eyes on the team leaders. The vice says that normally Cher would be in charge of the meeting, but because of what happened, he and Sai-will will be in charge temporarily. First, he says he's sorry about Team 3's leader being taken out, but he doesn't think blaming the trainees is the right move. Leader Lee from Squad 11 says only one person managed to defeat the entire other squad, but the other one says that even though he thinks Sai-will went overboard, he believes it was self-defense. So Jung says Squad 8 didn't get a single injury, while her trainees got completely wrecked. The vice says she's the one to blame for starting the fight over some petty romance, making the woman irritated by his words. He goes on, saying he's acting as the instructor and leading the case, so he asks her to watch her words. Lee reminds him there's a hierarchy, and asks if he's really going to let this slide. The vice denies it, saying that's why everyone is there, because they're going to vote. There's only one trainee on trial, and that's Young Soo-hyuk. He says the kid isn't just an incredible trainee, but also has extraordinary talent. The vice asks everyone who agrees with punishing him to raise their hands, but only one person does, and even then he lowers it after the others stare at him. A lot of people look tense in the room, annoyed. Lee asks what their problem is, why they're not saying anything. Sayul says only 2 people want the boy punished. The next discussion is about head instructor Shahar's position. He suggests firing the elf and taking her place, getting a big chunk of the votes in favor. So Shahar gets demoted to a regular instructor, and is also fined 100 million won, which will be donated to the association. Sayul asks if the elf wants to say anything about it, but Shahar says no, saying she believes it wasn't a very honorable fight, so she accepts the punishment, which annoys her enemy, because she's accepting it. So Shahar Goen asks if that isn't a bit too much, but Sayul says the sentence is fair, and once again asks if there are any objections. Again, the woman says this is ridiculous. She asks someone to say something, claiming that in her opinion this isn't just mockery. The others look way too tense to answer, and Sayul smiles at what the woman says. He says the Black Cloud Witch has gotten way too full of herself after everything. So Shahar Goen, pissed off, calls him a bastard. In response, the new head instructor slams his fist on the table. Sayul asks if she knows where she is to keep throwing a guild's name around like that. He says training cadets means raising Korea's future, and that on top of that, it's an honorable duty to protect the world. With an aura surrounding him, he says she stained the mission over a pathetic love fight. As punishment, Sayul says that from that moment on, she and the Emogi Guild are banned from instructor duties for 3 years. Even so, Xu Jiang asks who gave him the right to talk like that. Sayul says he did it as the director in charge of the 56th trainee program. One of the instructors asks if they shouldn't vote on that, which makes him agree, since there's still democracy in the country. Sayul says they'll settle it by majority vote, then asks if they choose Baekdusan or Emogi. Everyone knows Baekdusan is the best among the 3 guilds, making the man think he bet on the wrong horse, a total defeat for Emogi. People comment that the meeting was intense, and that they'd never seen Sayul that angry, and they want to know what's going to happen to Emogi. One of them comments that they talked about Soo-hyuk too, asking if they shouldn't recruit the guy immediately because of his strong track record. While the pair is distracted talking, the ex-emperor is watching the others. He wanted to know what happened in the meeting, but he doesn't really care since he's going to keep fighting. More stuff happened during the night. After all the training and combat experience, Soo-yuk has been getting stronger. He's ready to start. The art of unifying heaven and earth, which are connected by a single thread, so they're two, and at the same time one, just like they can also be three things. The energy starts in the lower dungeon, and runs through the Ren and Du meridians, called the Greater Circulation. Even though it's hard thanks to his experience on the fantasy continent, Soo-yuk manages to handle it, and he's finally complete. The meridians opened, and all impurities were expelled, leaving him in peak condition. In the window he gets a notice that he acquired a level 5 secret martial art, and the art of uniting heaven and earth, and that a new transformation happened in his body. Soo-yuk also received a body transformation into a unified form, and with the improvements, he finally took his first step forward, and he'll prove it in another training session. Something crawls quickly beneath the ground. A scary thing with several huge teeth comes up to the surface. Having regained the unification of heaven and earth, Soo-yuk now wants to work on getting his movement technique back. The creature gets closer and closer to the group. Because it's a desert area, the sand made it hard to see clearly. Without waiting to become food, Soo-yuk starts the attack with iron-crushing palm, absolute severance, punching the monster with unshakable will, using 42 out of 100 of his inner power. Soo-yuk worries because the energy is solid, but the internal consumption is high. More creatures start to appear. With the aura wrapping around his body, he believes he still isn't using his ability perfectly. The small aura grows even bigger, looking like a strong blue flame. Soo-yuk gets ready for his next move. Then the window shows a legendary discovery, the newly discovered technique, 8 trigram steps. The ex-emperor already raises his fist to punch the face of anyone who gets in his way, stopping the first monster with his strike. The creature is thrown back by the impact. His friends watch the fight, scared. Ayoon comments that the old man is on another level on this mission, and Chang thinks it's impossible to reach anything like that. Sharper notices his movements are sharper, and that his energy efficiency improved. Impressed, she wonders if the kid really got that strong in such a short time. Back to the fight, the two monsters left look even more fierce. Soo-yuk still has that confident look. He dodges every attack. The ex-emperor holds a stance for the new attack, using the blood demon palm, hitting each monster's points with just his fingers, and as a follow-up, blood explosion. Soo-yuk doesn't even look back. Looking back, he thinks something's off. That's when he realizes he defeated all the creatures by himself. Soo-yuk lets out an awkward laugh because once again, he kept all the fun to himself. Before he knew it, the 2 weeks of live combat training were over. In his speech, Sayol says everyone worked hard. Only the troublemakers from Team 3 didn't pass. This big approval wasn't unheard of, but it was definitely rare. Soo-hyuk knows that overall the team's performance was excellent. Char congratulates her team on the good work. She says they won't be called mere trainees anymore, and that the excellent results will get them great offers. Still in her speech, the elf says the path they choose depends only on them. But as someone who was their instructor, she has something to say. Char says the moment itself might not be honorable, but the fact that they're prepared for the battlefield for this world is already honorable. To finish, she says she hopes they make choices they won't regret. And that's all she has to say. Wen Yuanqing is trying to hold back her strong emotions, but she fails, and runs into her beautiful instructor's arms. The girl says that if it weren't for the elf, she wouldn't have worked so hard. Char is very proud of her. She says she was really happy to meet everyone, and that she considers it an honor to be with them up to this moment. Still with eyes full of tears, Wen Yuan asks when they'll see her again, and asks the elf if she has a phone. Char thinks about it, and with a big smile says that if fate allows it, the wind will bring news of her. Chang says he has something to say. The redhead starts by reminding them that he's a criminal. He talks about the first day the elf told him that becoming an awakened was a way of redemption and honor. With a small smile she says she remembers, but he reveals it isn't honorable, since he never had such noble intentions. Crying, Chang says he only wanted to make money. He says that never in his life had he had those thoughts. The redhead keeps saying he could have worked hard at a normal job, but he chose the easier path. So after hearing everything, Xiaobei says she never felt ashamed of him, even when they trained together. The elf says it doesn't matter how his journey started, and that either way he shouldn't be tied to that. Making things even more intense, Char calls him Lang Dare, and asks him to remember that. She says there's no reason to shed tears of regret anymore, because the desire to protect will grant true redemption. In the end, she says she'll be looking after him. Then she turns to Soo-hyuk. The former emperor says it was an honor to fight by her side, and Char has nothing to say to her. Squeezing his hand, she says she hopes to see him on the battlefield. It was a clear, beautiful day for a farewell, and all that was left was to fill out the official awakened record. In Korea, these people are ranked from 1st to 13th. For 13th, the strongest level, there's only one person, and in 12th there are 5, and those 6 individuals are the core force that protects and leads the country. Soo-hyuk gets curious about what they're like. Most trainees usually qualify for the first level. Meanwhile, his data is processed by the orb. The man freaks out when he sees the data on the screen. so the former emperor is simply level 6. They called the ones who reached the legendary 13th level, the pinnacle of humanity. Among them was a genius who reached the 4th level right after finishing training in his early 20s. A lone warrior with no guild, who by himself defeated countless portals, and that person is Baek Muhak. In South Korea, he was an unprecedented phenomenon, even on a global scale. Very few had ever shown growth that fast. And right now, Soo-hyuk got a result that beats even Baek Muhak. The man asks him to wait a moment because he needs to finish the last paperwork, and then issue his hunter license. Meanwhile, the former emperor thinks things are beyond what he expected, because the awakened on Earth seem stronger than he imagined. But then he remembers that the Dimensional Alliance rated humanity's potential as mid-level, and the elves a bit higher than that. The Celestials who lead the Alliance of the Heavenly Realm were rated as first level. Their biggest enemy was the demons, which makes him think about the possibility of humanity ending up facing those beings. But Soo-hyuk doesn't want to think too much about it. After all, this whole ranking thing is just a standard set by the Celestials. Thinking again, Earth is growing at an incredible pace, way faster than the other continents, and he knows it's possible to break limits on this planet. Finally, his license is done, and to register he just has to use the bracelet. The item is placed on his wrist immediately. Soon a strong light is emitted. Soo-hyuk is fascinated by the magic. The man explains it's made by dwarf craftsmen, and enchanted by the elves. Soo-hyuk finds it all impressive. Suddenly, a voice behind the guy says it's a pleasure to finally meet him. Soo-hyuk turns around and finds a red-haired figure wearing a suit in a really bright color. Not understanding, the former emperor asks who he is. The man apologizes and says he'll introduce himself. He lifts his suit sleeve, showing a golden bracelet. From it, a screen lights up showing his data. But what surprises the former emperor is that the man is rank 11. Shenwu asks if they can talk. They go to the redhead's room, where music is playing to set the mood. Shenwu asks him to sit because he's going to give him something really good. Soo-hyuk is always on guard, the music playing to set the mood of the place. And the redhead hums along to the melody, but the former emperor thinks he's chaotic. Shenwu points to a weird device, asking for it to be heated up. Then it lights up like embers. Shenwu says it's getting cold, so he brought the item because he's pretty sensitive to the cold. That makes the former emperor think it's even weirder that he's using a heater in October. Finally, the drink is ready. The redhead offers some to Soo-hyuk so he can try the drink. Shenwu says foreigners go crazy for it, and asks if the guy doesn't like it. But Soo-hyuk says he does. A bit modestly, the man says he doesn't like making his assistants get his coffee, saying they're already too busy with other things. But the former emperor wants to get straight to the point, and asks what the man wants to talk about. Shenwu likes his attitude. The redhead asks if he's ever considered joining the Awakened Association. As always, Soo-hyuk gives a straight answer, turning down his request. Shenwu says the rejection was pretty harsh. He says he never imagined someone who wants to be a hunter wouldn't line up exactly with the association. Cutting ahead of the questions, Soo-hyuk also says he doesn't plan to join any guild, so Shenwu asks if he's a shaman, which the former emperor already expected him to ask, and he makes it clear he has no intention of immigrating. That gets the redhead excited, and he says he loves the wonderful country they live in too. He also says the guy is surprisingly sharp for someone who just woke up from a coma, and asks what his goal is. The man also says that if he wants something, he just has to say it, because if it's within his power, he'll make it happen. Soo-hyuk leaves the room hoping he managed to get a good answer out of him. Thinking about that makes him remember Yeon and Chang-fyuk, wondering how they're doing. He's surprised by the message. Both of his partners are rank 3. Soo-hyuk smiles, seeing that things are definitely starting for them too. He sends a message congratulating them for it. The former emperor is standing there, messing with his phone, but he's paying attention to everything, so something easily catches his eye. There's something really strange around him. A weird light appears in the sky. Soo-hyuk runs to check what it is. More people are on their way to do the same. They're scared by what they're seeing, because all of a sudden, a portal appeared there. A car announces what happened to the citizens, and asks everyone to stay calm and head to the underground shelters at Shinchan Station. Soo-hyuk realizes it's a rank 5 portal. A security guard asks everyone to move to safety, but in the meantime, more than 10 people have already been sucked in. The man tells them to stay calm because the awakened are there. Still, the others step closer. They argue about whether they should really wait, afraid the delay will worry the hunters about the people who were taken. Then the former emperor asks if they're not going to rescue them. The group turns around and asks who the stranger is, and also warns him to step back because it's dangerous. In response, Soo-hyuk shows his bracelet. That leaves the group surprised that he's awakened, and the woman asks about his rank. The redhead introduces himself as Kim Yuman, rank 3 guardian, and asks the former emperor if he really plans to go into the portal alone. Soo-hyuk answers that he knows guardians can enter in an emergency situation, which the redhead agrees with. Then, the former emperor asks if this isn't one of those cases, but Yumin says he doesn't understand why an awakened would risk their life for that, even if only a few civilians got swallowed by the portal. All arrogant, he says they're the chosen ones, and if people had the bad luck to get wiped out, then that's their fate. Soo-hyuk asks how he can say something like that. but Yumin keeps insisting he just said the obvious. He says they're not like normal citizens, and says Soo-hyuk is completely ridiculous for trying to get involved because of some sense of justice. And he adds that the former emperor doesn't even care about his own life. Soo-hyuk says it's not about justice. Annoyed, he questions how someone can have that power and still hide like a turtle, and asks if he really deserves to be called awakened. The former emperor also says he should be ashamed of it, since the government isn't paying billions just for him to sit around and do nothing. He walks past the redhead, who's impressed by his skill. Yumin yells, asking if he knows it's illegal for a hunter to enter a portal alone, and threatens to report the situation to the association. But Soo-hyuk just replies that he's not a coward, and says if he has time to complain, he should go home and be a good son to his parents. He enters the portal while Yumin keeps yelling, asking what makes him feel so special. The redhead finishes by saying he hopes he gets eaten by a monster, because he won't care. Still, he realizes not everyone agrees with his opinion. Yumin tells Han Taman that if he goes in too, he'll get wiped out. But the man just says he's not a kid crying for his mom like him, because he won't stand there like a coward watching civilians get killed off. The others feel the same way, and go into the portal with him. That makes Yumin angry, and he asks if the idiots are going crazy. In a huge forest, a man is sitting on the ground, confused about where he is. Scared, he says he thinks he's in big trouble. Looking around more carefully, he realizes it looks like the inside of the portal, so he gets up trying to think what he should do so he doesn't die there. He thinks about his wife and his daughter Mia-yoon, wondering how much life insurance he has. The man trips over a vine, and ends up falling face first onto the ground. He tries to brace himself to get up. Suddenly something catches his attention. Carnivorous plant-type monsters are ready to devour him. Using the vine, the creature grabs the man's leg, pulling him in to eat him. The monster opens its huge mouth. Desperate, the man screams that he can't die, and cries for help. His eye manages to catch the image of someone. There's someone there for him. Better than that, the man knows it's an awakened. Desperate, he screams for help one more time. The monster named Atoll just leaves its snack to eat later. Soo-hyuk notices it's about 2 meters tall, using vine-like tentacles that swing like arms. He thinks that with a sword, his job would have been even easier, because this is not a good situation to be without a weapon. The ex-emperor fires off several strikes at the enemy, like wind kick, receding first strike, and piercing force, creating a big hole in the plant. Soo-hyuk also knows that this kind of flower needs to be harvested, so he tries receding wind kick, gaining more power with vanishing gale, and then he hits the monster, finally harvesting the evil thing with just his blows. The man is lying on the ground, stunned by the awakened strength. He looks at the ex-emperor. Soo-hyuk introduces himself to the man, telling him he's safe now. Still shaken, the man thanks him for it. Finally, the guardians manage to reach him. Taemin says they came to help him. He asks if everyone's okay, and Soo-hyuk says yes. The swordsman is impressed that he managed to defeat a big Atoll by himself. Soo-hyuk says he's going to look for the other survivors, and asks them to take care of the man. Before he goes, they ask him to wait. Taemin says he doesn't have any equipment, so he offers his sword so he can deal with the Atolls. The weapon came at the perfect time for the ex-emperor. With that, he runs into the forest. Soo-hyuk is ready to take down more monsters. As he runs, he feels several presences in that direction. He knows about 20 people were swallowed by the portal. Even so, only one was saved. But no matter what, the man who united the whole continent of Hwan will save everyone and close the portal. A hunter's main objective is to destroy the cosmo energy, which is like the heart that supports the world, and close the portal. It exists in many forms, and it can even be a final boss, and defeating it recklessly could cause the entire world to collapse, killing the survivors. That's why they have to rescue them before a confrontation with the cosmo energy. Luckily, it's not too late for that. It's been a long time since Soo-hyuk used a sword, and this is a good moment. He draws his new weapon. Sensing his presence, the tentacles head toward him. Soo-hyuk makes several slashes with his sword. Pieces scatter through the air as he keeps leveling up, and he also reached the unity of sword and body. Using the weapon, the efficiency of chi transmission increased by 50%, and cutting power by 30%, almost at the level of a grade 1 swordsman from the arcane continent. Soo-hyuk meets up with the group, bringing more survivors. He says he's going to look for more and asks the guardians to stay there. Worried, Taemin asks if he'll be able to handle everything alone. Soo-hyuk says that luckily the world isn't that big, and once again says he'll bring the survivors there. Still, the guardian says that having only one meeting point could be complicated, suggesting they split up, choose different locations, and then keep in contact. Taemin shows the ex-emperor how to do that with the bracelet. He says he'll send the location of the last remaining survivors through a licensed courier, which makes things easier for Soo-hyuk, who didn't even know the bracelet had so many useful functions. Taemin says he's sorry he can't help much, since guardians aren't really suited for direct combat, but the ex-emperor says their concern is already more than enough. Soo-hyuk walks through the forest, using the sword to clear a path. Thanks to the guardians' help, the rescue efforts continued without any problems. He finds more survivors, and introduces himself to them. Through the courier, Taemin says the 22 people were rescued, which is good for the ex-emperor, who can now focus only on fighting. All that's left is to destroy this world's cosmo energy. The huge tentacles sway, ready to attack. Being 3 meters tall, Soo-hyuk believes Atel is the final boss, so he plans to take the monster out really fast. The former emperor throws the first strike, but nothing happens. Besides being huge, the thing's tentacles are also really strong. He dodges Atel's attack. Soo-hyuk realizes a normal sword skill isn't working. After all, a boss really is on a different level. There's a method he doesn't like, but it's been a long time, so he thinks it's fine to use it. Soo-hyuk is channeling energy into the sword, a technique more powerful than high-level martial arts, at the cost of the user's willpower, the soul-stealing demon sword. If he can control it, that insane power will be his alone, but he needs to withstand the malice it carries. This is the only way to defeat that thing. With the dark energy he charges at the monster. His only enemy is the giant Atzel. Soo-hyuk uses the soul-stealing demon sword ultimate move, firing off soul-reaving slash. The monster takes all that energy head-on. This attack seems to work against the creature, and as a result, once again, the former emperor levels up. Thanks to his mental toughness, he resisted the mental corruption. In the system window it shows he gained the skill advanced immunity to mental corruption. His mind was purified, and his proficiency in the soul-stealing demon sword technique increased, and he gained the title of Minor Destroyer. That's way too surprising for the former emperor. The Guardians wait outside the portal. They're worried because Soo-hyuk is taking longer than they expected. Then someone is finally about to come out. It's Soo-hyuk safe and sound. Taemin and the others run up to the former emperor. He says they were really worried. Soo-hyuk says he's fine and thanks him for the sword. He says it's a really well-made weapon. Smiling, Taemin says he spent his entire fortune to have the dwarves make it, and he's happy Soo-hyuk liked it. Soo-hyuk is about to leave when he gets called. Hunter Kim In-kyu, rank 7 and president of the KR Guild, invites him to destroy the portal. That offer catches the former emperor off guard. Suddenly a guild member gets the president's attention. Looking where the man points, they realize the portal disappeared. They're amazed. Xiaobei-yuk managed to clear a rank 5 place all by himself. To them it's unbelievable, like a monster showed up. Xiaobei-yuk walks past them like he's some insanely powerful being, which makes Yumin mad when he realizes he's being treated like a hero. Annoyed, the redhead says that even if he did a good job, he still has to be punished for breaking the law. Tiamin asks what Soo-hyuk supposedly didn't respect, and Yumin says he went into the portal alone. The swordsman says that's twisted logic to try to bring Soo-hyuk down, and also reminds him that technically he didn't go in alone. Still, Yumin argues, saying the bastard never intended to follow the law, and they only got caught up in it by chance. Out of patience, Tiamin says there's no reason to talk to him. Then the redhead starts making a scene, saying the former emperor tried to enter the portal alone and ignored them even with warnings, treating the association like a joke. The people watching wonder what's wrong with the two of them, hoping at least Yumin would show some gratitude. Then everyone starts commenting, wanting to know who this guy is making a scene, and whether he's from the association to be acting like that. That just makes the Guardian even more irritated. He says it's time to show what happens to illegal awakened. Then the man grabs Soo-hyuk by the shirt. Yumin threatens the criminal, but the former emperor looks calm, like the annoyance is nothing. Irritated, Yumin asks if he's going to hit him, because he'll add that to the charges, making a point of personally taking him to prison. The former emperor's answer is a punch to his stomach. That catches the bully off guard. Yumin drops to the ground, groaning in pain. Before Soo-hyuk could do anything, someone else steps in front of him. In-kyu says he should be thanking the guy who saved everyone at the gate, asking what he thinks an awakened even is. But his lecture just makes Yumin angrier, and he asks who he is. The man introduces himself again as the president of the KR Guild. Yumin lowers his head in front of the authority figure, and everyone looks toward someone even higher than that. Shimwoo reveals he heard everything from where he was. He introduces himself as the vice president of the Awakened Association. First he apologizes for not responding to the situation in time, and promises he'll make sure nothing like this happens again. Shimwoo says that if anyone feels unwell, they can visit any university hospital in the association network, because all expenses will be covered by them. An older lady says that if it weren't for the awakened one, they'd be in serious trouble, and asks that he not be punished. Crying, the first person rescued says that if it weren't for the savior, he'd never see his family again, also asking that the ex-emperor not be punished. Shimwoo says they shouldn't worry about that, because it won't happen. He then asks Soo-hyuk to check the license. He quickly does it by touching his bracelet. The screen shows the status of solo player, a license that allows him to enter the portals alone. That even surprises the ex-emperor, who thinks it's the request he made earlier. Shimwoo kindly explains that he has permission to enter alone, and on top of that he rescued people, so he deserves a hero reward. The man asks everyone to give young Soo-hyuk a round of applause. Thanks to the vice president, the portal incident was resolved. Kim Yoo-ming got a 3-month license suspension, and was sent for 6 months of frontline service as punishment. Soo-hyuk's hunter rank increased to 8, and he received 20 million won as a reward. Shimwoo says the association's budget is tight, so that's all they can give. Soo-hyuk says it's fine, he just wants one favor, that his name not be published in connection with the incident. The vice president says that's not a hard request, and he'll make sure it's honored. Soo-hyuk is finally home. The guy is lying down while he rests. He looks over the mana stone worth 80 million, and he got 2 of them. It was Taemin who picked them up and handed them over, since the hero was busy saving people. It's a huge unexpected bonus. All in all, his heroic act brought in 180 million won, leaving him with 160 after taxes, but totaling 200 million with his bank balance. He made that much money in just one day, and hopes to earn 300 more to take out a small loan and buy an apartment. Owning a home has been his family's dream for years. In the status window it says he's level 18, and some other levels went up too, and there's new info. He enables the simplified version, getting a better view of things. Soo-hyuk remembers the title, Lesser Destroyer, and wants to understand what it can do. With it, his stats increase by 5% when entering a dimension alone. After he taps the screen, Soo-hyuk gets flooded with screens. There are countless techniques that can help with demonic arts and spell-based ones. In Hwonder, illusion and spiritual arts were the hardest to deal with, but he had enough resistance, so it wasn't a big problem. On Earth, reaching that kind of immunity requires the harmonization stage, but he unlocked it just as a skill bonus. If he reaches harmonization and strengthens his mental defense even more, he'll be completely immune to illusion techniques. Suddenly his sister walks into the room asking what Appa is doing. Sora says it's been a while since he's been talking to himself, and the guy says it's nothing, and that she's being way too suspicious. The Guardian says she'll cut up some fruit to eat. From the news she finds out about the portal incident near Sinshan Station. Sora points it out to her brother, and he pretends to be surprised. At least he's sure the vice president kept his end of the deal. Something catches Sora's attention. His bracelet is giving off some kind of signal, so he quickly hides it. Sora plans to tell his sister, but he's waiting for when she's alone, though he wants to keep the portal incident hidden. He doesn't have much time to think because his sister grabs his arm. Sora reveals she already suspected it, but now she has confirmation that he's an awakened one. The girl gets a little mad, reminding him it hasn't been that long since he was in the hospital. Sora replies that he remembers, and that was the reason he went in. Sora also says the bracelet means he's rank 6 or higher, accusing him of having been awakened for a while. To make things worse, the ex-emperor says he might reach gold soon, because he's very talented. His little sister asks if he thinks he can get out of it with just words. The news comes back to the portal incident, saying that a rising star among Korea's awakened played a crucial role in stopping it, but that the association didn't reveal his identity, though they said he could follow in Baek Muhuk's footsteps as the next Universal 8. Suspicious, Suras asks if that could be about him, and the guy confirms it. She asks about his rank, and gets the answer on the news that he's class 8. The vice president says it's not just about his skills, but that he's strong and has a sense of justice. All Sura can focus on is the rank. One of the rescued people being interviewed says he could only think about surviving while thinking about his family until the hero showed up. The man says he stopped believing in that stuff when he was 12, but now he knows it's real. He makes it clear that heroes exist, but even so, Surag believes he's not some big deal, and that he only did what another awakened person did. Since that day, the world hasn't stopped talking about what happened, and even about having faith in humanity and in Korea's strength. On the news they keep talking about the divine class awakened who shook everything up. The man talks about how he chose to keep his identity hidden, and everyone respected that. On the phone, Shin Woo tells him to enjoy it because he did something incredible, revealing he's a huge fan of the nameless hero. He even says that if he weren't vice president, he would have started a fan club, which makes the hero ask if he's not posting secret comments. Shin Woo just replies that he's a mysterious man. After revealing the truth, he formed a temporary alliance with his sister, with the first rule being to fool their parents. After all, if they find out, one of them might faint. The second rule is to get to gold as fast as possible, and for that he needs to take rank 9, who are the elite, and get a security level. The third rule is to never overdo it. After all, even Su-ah knows there's no way to stop anymore, so he agrees to follow the rules. At least it's a big obstacle overcome. The hero decides to go to a convenience store. His thought is that if this keeps up, his identity will end up getting exposed. For now, he needs to hide it. It's embarrassing for Soo-hyuk, but it's better than being found out. A lot of doubts were left about the hero, and some even suspect it's a story made up by the association. He's used to that kind of thing on the Hwan continent. Fame and rumors always followed him. Soo-hyuk destroys another portal. In the last month he cleared about 20 by himself. The monster's blood runs down his fist. Luckily, everything he's doing isn't being reported, but he knows a masked figure constantly moving through portals wouldn't go unnoticed. People naturally started paying attention to his achievements. All eyes were drawn to the strange nameless one, back at the Baekdusan Guild, in President Ye Hyu-kyung's office. All this stuff is giving him a headache. He stops reading and asks the other guy to stop tapping his fingers, but the long-haired guy says it's only expected since he can't sit still. Seeing that makes Sayul wonder if the man really should be the leader of the biggest guild in the country. Then he says that if the guy is that impatient, he should go see him, which gets Hyung excited about the idea. He says it's better than sitting around and believes that if he's direct with the nameless one, he won't ignore him. Suddenly his foot freezes to the floor, catching Hyung off guard, and he complains about it. Saiwoo explains that he shouldn't go running off like a madman. He explains they sent a bunch of messages and calls, and if there's no reply, it's because the masked guy has no intention of showing up. Hyung asks if they're going to sit around waiting for the guy to get away, and how long they'll let Baek Muchup manipulate them. He also complains that the other guilds will go after him, and Saiwoo suspects the nameless one is Soo-hyuk. The guy with glasses says that even if it's not the kid, he has potential like the unknown one, and the long-haired guy demands he tell him the plan. Saiwoo says that during training, Soo-hyuk never wanted to socialize, ignoring messages and calls from the guilds, aware that at this rate the ex-emperor won't sign with anyone, and that pressuring him is a really amateur move. The man says there's only one solution, which is Shaharkal Eluriat, catching Hyung off guard. Saiwoo says she was Soo-hyuk's instructor, and even though the elf denies it, he knows they share some kind of bond. The long-haired guy says there's no way to convince her, especially since she's not even human. Saiwoo says it's not that, just that the kid wasn't her only trainee, and because of that, he has their call history. Even if he doesn't know how deep the relationship is, they've been in contact. On the list, Hyung sees the name Ai-yeon, who considered the guild's offer. Saiwoo says that besides his family, the girl is the only person close to him, and asks if it's worth getting closer to her. The long-haired guy asks the same thing. So Four Eyes decides she should sign a contract with the Baektuzan Guild, because with her, their chances are more than good enough. Hyung asks if after that they'll open a direct line with the nameless one, and the other agrees, getting as a compliment that he's a disgusting scheming bastard. Saiwoo asks if he didn't like that. With a scary evil grin, Hyung wants them to do it immediately. In yet another portal, Soo-hyuk is ready to make more money. Without thinking twice, he starts wiping out the monsters. His enemy is a giant mantis that has an attack that shuts down time. A big challenge for the masked hero. He fires Iron Crushing Palm. Final move, Single Thought Crushing Darkness, causing a huge explosion in the small area, and taking down the giant mantis. Soo-hyuk looks at all the destruction he caused. All the effort guaranteed a level up, and mastering the rank A skill, Iron Crushing Palm. The ex-emperor is still far from done. He needs to get even stronger. So he keeps up his cleanup work, using a special tool to get the byproducts. And luckily, he gets a mana stone. Most of the mantis's body is useless, but at least he can take the front legs, which are valuable. Because crafters really prefer those materials, and just one pair can cost 10 million won. Soo-hyuk figures that selling that along with the mana stone will get him at least 50 million won. Suddenly something catches the masked guy's attention. A strange stone appears in his path. It's the cosmic energy of this world, radiating hostility, and he knows that if he leaves it alone, it'll cost a lot of lives. Luckily, Soo-hyuk is there to stop that from happening. He throws his dagger at the cosmic energy. The spear hits the stone, causing a crack where it struck. Then it keeps cracking even more, as it gives off its energy. With all his loot in the bag, the masked guy gets on a quad bike, starting the machine as fast as he can, ready to get the hell out of this world. Soo-hyuk is going full speed. In the distance, he sees the light of the exit. The hero goes out through the portal, carrying all his goods. The people waiting for him outside already know the whole place got cleared like always. After all, that's what you expect from the nameless hero. The ATV he bought recently increased his earnings, and it's also necessary to have the right gear for solo hunting. Plus, since the item was made by dwarves, it's insanely durable, and it has a storage expansion enchantment. For Soo-hyuk, it was worth it because it was cheaper, making it a solid investment at a price of 800 million won. So the hero keeps going, having made a lot of money. Soo-hyuk says he's outside the building. He says he got some mantis legs and mana stones, and that a processing team will be sent. Taking advantage of the call, the ex-emperor asks if there are any rank 6 or 7 portals, but the answer is that those belong to the guilds. He asks for something smaller, but the person on the call suggests he take a break, since he's been working a lot. Soo-hyuk says he'll think about it, and then gets invited to come up for coffee, but he refuses, leaving it for another day, and the person then says they'll process the goods and update him soon. It's a terrible time for there to be no portals available. He needs to reach rank 9 to finally tell his parents. Checking his phone, he notices a message. Soo-hyuk asks him to let her know how he's doing after lunch, and suggests he come back immediately if he's hurt. He tells his sister the whole situation. Soo-hyuk realizes he also has messages from Ai-yeon. They're desperate messages from the girl saying she's joining the Baekdusan Guild. The ex-hero congratulates her, and asks her to let him know about the celebration. With everything taken care of, it's time for lunch. He goes into a restaurant. It's still early for lunch, so the place is empty, but at least he can eat in peace. He hears someone say the nameless hero stopped by the association. The other employee says the masked guy even turned in mantis legs and mana stones, even complaining that the nameless one just became an awakened and still gets special treatment. But his partner defends the hero, saying it's deserved and that it's worth holding on to someone like that, and saying that in another country the media could tear him apart. With no choice, the man admits he's right. After all, the masked guy has potential like Bak Muhak, and losing him would be a disaster. What catches Soo-hyuk's attention in the conversation is when they talk about the Tranon dimension, a long-range restricted zone where nothing has been found. Even the former emperor knows it's impossible for someone to do it alone. They comment on how really strange this silence about the situation is. The pair also talks about the association teaming up with Elvenheim, and even about the pretty instructor who showed up. Then the other one mentions the rumor that Elvenheim developed a new magic tool that can shrink the cosmos location down to the size of an island. Soo-hyuk is no longer at the table. The guy is paying his bill while he hears that the association will soon make a recruitment announcement for hunters. That catches Soo-hyuk's attention. With no active gates there isn't much work, and he knows he wouldn't be able to handle the Tranon dimension alone. Remembering what that employee said, he knows it's the perfect chance. He needs to be quick, so he calls the vice president. But apparently the man is pretty busy. Soo-hyuk thinks about what he should do, because he needs to be faster than the guilds. Suddenly someone shows up saying he's pretty arrogant, and with talent and power at his age, he has every right to be. The man calls him by name, showing he knows who he is. To make it even better, the one-eyed guy calls him no name. The man says he doesn't seem to like small talk, so he'll get straight to the point. First he asks if the kid knows why he's there, but Soo-hyuk has no idea. The one-eyed guy introduces himself as Park Mugi. Soo-hyuk replies that the man isn't talented either, and asks what he's trying to do, and that strength isn't everything in this world. With a smile, Mugi asks if that's how he plans to play. Lit up by an aura, he says he'll have to show what real strength is. He summons an energy dragon, and fires his attack at Soo-hyuk. The former emperor watches closely. He manages to dodge being swallowed. Soo-hyuk realizes the old man's ability is a shadow-based Esper one, and it's really fast. The creature keeps chasing him, forcing him to push himself to the limit. This won't be an easy fight for the hero. Mugi says he dodged well, but that doesn't mean it'll help, because the kid is just a slippery eel that hits Soo-hyuk's pride. He thinks that back in Hwan, he'd never have been able to even touch his sleeve. This time he plans to fight seriously. The former emperor goes for a direct attack. It's several energy dragons ready to devour him. He dodges every single creature, too fast to keep up with his movements, using that tactic to face the enemy head-on. The kid is more impressive than the old man expected. At least the fight just got even more interesting. Mugi launches a new attack, but this is Soo-hyuk's chance, while the one-eyed guy is distracted by his clone. The man tries to read his movements, but no name is even faster. Soo-hyuk understands that even if it's an Esper ability, in the end it's still just fire, and that it can be put out by consuming the air around it. So he uses Wind Cleave and Receding Wind Kick, fighting off all the flames around him, annoying the one-eyed guy because he's so skilled even though it's only been 2 months since he became awakened. Soo-hyuk finally stops right in front of him. Energy is surging through his whole body. His next move is the Shaolin secret technique. Firing the 100-step Divine Fist, Mugi tries to protect himself from the powerful blast. His flames aren't as big as before, so they're quickly snuffed out by the attack. Then he opens his eyes. Soo-hyuk is using the touch against him. The former emperor explains that right there is the pressure point, and hitting it will immediately cause his death. Mugi wants to understand what kind of technique this is, only realizing it's a physical enhancement. Soo-hyuk says he doesn't know why the old man came looking for him, but he hopes they don't meet again since he doesn't have a good relationship with the guild. He also warns that if they cross paths again, he'll finish him. Mugi asks if he knows that Universal 8 has put him on their target list, and if the kid doesn't think they're nice guys. Begging, the old man asks him to join Amogi, because no matter how strong he is, he won't be able to handle it alone. No Name's lack of an answer irritates him. Finally, in an empty alley, his red liquid falls to the ground. Soo-hyuk feels like his insides are being twisted. He figures he probably pushed himself too hard. Now more than ever, he needs to speed up his plans. Turns out he just fought one of the only rank 12 awakens in Korea, and he knows that if he'd faced him head-on, he would have lost. But he has no regrets, because at least he dealt with that arrogant bastard. What he's worried about is the Universal 8, who unlike Mugi won't be easy to handle, so he needs to get stronger to deal with them. In the international airport area, a figure leads the way, followed by what look like his security. The man has a nice smile, like an idol. Andrei Vladimir is greeted by his butler. He greets Baek Chae-mun, who says the car is waiting for him. People around them stare and think he might even be an actor, because he looks kind of familiar. Chae-mun says if he'd contacted them earlier, they could have avoided all this commotion. But Vladimir says he didn't expect to have to move urgently either. But the old man says even so, a heads up before leaving would have been good. The trip happens in a small limousine. Vladimir asks where No Name came from. His butler says it's only been a few months, since he was in a coma, and that the weird part is how he got strong so fast. The blonde asks if he's young, and gets the answer that the unknown hero is 27 years old. Vladimir reveals the masked man is the reason he came. This is going to be very interesting for him. He asks when Byoke is going to be released. Chae-mun says they heard he might be released next week, and asks them to wait a little. Vladimir isn't happy that No Name is going to stay hidden for another year, and complains that the training-obsessed lunatic hasn't changed at all. The driver looks a bit uneasy with the blonde's presence. Andrei Vladimir, the Blood Prince, also known as the ruler of the night, a Russian superhero. Since he's part of the infamous Universal 8, it's no surprise he's so arrogant. The blonde notices something is off. He asks the driver if he doesn't like hearing his boss being insulted. Chae-mun tries to smooth things over, saying he's just a kid. Andreev asks if he said something wrong, because the bastard locked himself up to train, so he had to come. Once again his attention goes to the boy, and he asks if he doesn't like him, but the driver says no. The blonde leans in and tells him to relax and put a smile on his face. Chae-mun promises he'll make the driver understand what his place is. Andreev says he's known Bake Moshauf since he was just a little brat, and he taunts him, asking if his dog thinks he can talk back to him like that. The driver asks him not to insult his master. A wicked smile appears on the blonde's face. Andreev, with a sinister aura, asks if the bastard really said that to him. The driver gets really scared. It's like he's about to be devoured by monsters. He can't even move. If this keeps going, the guy knows it'll be the end for him. So the driver begs for mercy. Then all that aura disappears. Chae-mun asks the guy if he's okay. The driver trembles in fear, only realizing that for a moment he thought he was about to visit the other world. But the old man knows something's wrong with the guy, so he asks to stop for a moment. And the blonde says the driver's got a horrible look on his face. Andreev tells him to relax, because life's too short to go around depressed. It's morning again. The internal injuries from the fight against Park Mugi still haven't healed. If Soo-hyuk tries to move recklessly, the pain will start spreading like poison, so he can't go into portals for now. He needs to recover first. The door is opened by his mother. She finds it strange that he runs every day, but this time stayed home, and she also says she has the day off. Then his dad shows up, and suggests they go on a little outing together for the first time in a long time. Soo-hyuk shows up agreeing with the idea. Finally Soo-hyuk asks if everyone's off, and the three of them agree at the same time. The ex-emperor though is left with nothing to say. In the end he says they planned this without him, and it would have been nice if they'd told him beforehand. His dad says it's not like an unemployed guy like him has anything to do. Without revealing anything, Soo-hyuk says even people without a job have things to do. At that moment, the man says that sometimes his son gets home so late even though he claims it's just training, suspecting he's hiding something. But his mom defends him, saying kids don't have to tell everything, and they also need a bit of privacy. Soo-hyuk feels awkward when the woman says she understood everything. Dad says he's just a little worried, and mom says staying cooped up at home all the time isn't good either. Anyway, the older man says they'll still go to Han River Park, maybe catch a movie or eat out. That cheers up the youngest in the family, since they haven't done something like that in a long time, and Soo-hyuk adds that mom won't have to cook, which makes the woman ask why, and the ex-emperor tries to explain that she won't have to do any work at all. Soo-hyuk reminds them they should bring lunchboxes to the park, even if they end up having dinner out. The girls' eyes light up as they make the request to dad, and Soo-hyuk remembers that when it comes to food, the man's cooking is way better. He pretends to be surprised by the request. Dad is ready to show off his cooking skills. He announces that everyone should watch TV in the living room while he cooks. His hands are skillful, even while chopping up some onions. The next step is to sprinkle in a little salt. Amused by the scene, Soo-hyuk asks where her dad learned to be that confident, and mom laughs, saying he's really feeling inspired. Finally, the omurusi is ready for breakfast. Soo-hyuk and mom's eyes sparkle at the food. Dad offers Soo-hyuk his plate. Seeing his portion, the ex-emperor thinks it's a bit too much. The older man says his son has been training hard late into the night, so he needs to eat well. Mom says it doesn't matter that he's unemployed. Seeing him healthy already makes her happy. They praise the food again, and Dad finds it strange that his son is being too quiet, and he says the food is good. It's been so long since Soo-hyuk felt this kind of warmth, wishing every day could be like this. The small house isn't uncomfortable, but he still can't stop thinking about it. He wonders if this is the best time to tell them his secret. Worried, Dad asks if something's wrong since he barely touched his food. Soo-hyuk sets his spoon down on the table. With his head lowered, he says he needs to tell them. Before he can say anything, Soo-hyuk calls him. The girl signals that now isn't the time to tell the truth. Soo-hyuk thinks that if he tells them, they might feel like they lost the son who just woke up from a coma. His bank account has around 500 million won. If he takes out a small loan, he could probably get a 30 apartment. But Universal 8 is on the move, so he needs enough power to face them, and for that he needs more money. The weather is nice for the outing. Soo-hyuk notices the car is shaking a lot, and figures it's because it's really old, so he gets the idea to buy a new one. Impressed, Soo-hyuk looks at the awakened ad. There's a huge poster on the building, and the girl comments that being one of those special people doesn't seem so bad. She says the number of eliminations has gone down, and the public likes them like they're celebrities. Soo-hyuk says if that were the case, the family wouldn't suffer so much, but mom says she doesn't want her daughter's hands stained with red liquid. She says there are things more important than money. Then the girl jokes, asking if that would be having a pretty daughter, and so they keep traveling. The family spends a few rare peaceful moments together, and Soo-hyuk can't remember the last time he had a day like this. He enjoys the delicious snacks Dad made. Soo-hyuk already lost a lot of time with them when he was in Hwan, so he wants to make them even happier. He wants to use his abilities to do everything he can for his family. Mom is impressed and asks if all of this isn't too expensive. The ex-emperor says, since his sister booked the movie, he'll pay for the meal. She asks what kind of unemployed guy would have money like that. Suh says he's fine and that he plans to start working soon. Dad asks if he's sure about that, since he just woke up. With a smile, Suh tells him not to worry because he's already recovered and rested enough. Mom is grateful that he's trying so hard and asks him to let them know if anything gets difficult. Another day is coming to an end. With a worried look, Dad asks why his son sighed, and Suh explains, it's because the day feels like it's going by way too fast. Suh asks the man if he feels that way too, so the mom jokes that he's turning into his dad, and that worries her because she doesn't want another super emotional person. Suddenly they realize Suh is taking a while, and the woman says she went to the bathroom. Suh offers to go check if everything's okay. The guy walks around looking all over the place for his sister. Somewhere else, the girl is getting slapped. The person who did it says a place like this isn't for a beggar like her. Suh whispers that she's a loser. The girl ends up hearing it and says someone's eager to die. She lunges at Suh asking if she thinks she's special. Before another slap could land, the girl's hand gets grabbed. That catches her off guard. Suh has that look like he could take anyone out. He says it looks like some kind of disguise technique. Annoyed, the girl asks who he is to butt into this. So Suh introduces himself as Suh's brother. His sister says she's fine. She tells him not to get involved, but he asks how he's supposed to not get involved when his sister was about to get hit. Suddenly he looks at her when he notices something. Now the ex-emperor knows his sister has been slapped before. Suh asks what kind of half-baked bargain bin disguise she's wearing, looking like a monster. A scary aura surrounds him, and the girl feels it and gets terrified. Then she screams, calling him a pervert and telling him to let go. Han-Aran opens her eyes and realizes nothing is holding her. Suh laughs and asks if she's crazy, which pisses the other girl off as she asks if she's messing with her. Suh wants the details later, but for now he tells Han-Aran to stop before things get worse. But that just makes her angrier, and the girl asks what a beggar like him is gonna do. The ex-emperor says being poor isn't a crime, but Han-Aran insists it is, because the rich walk free and the poor get punished, and that's how the country works. She asks if growing up like that made him clueless, and says the girl can't even talk back when she gets hit. The girl says her family can make it so they can't afford their tiny rundown apartment, and suggests he kneel and beg for forgiveness. Suh asks if that's all he has to do. Suh tries to ask him to just let it go. Looking at Han-Aran, he knows for sure she has money and power, so he says she just looks like an insecure brat trying to hide that she feels inferior, and that dressed in expensive clothes she looks even poorer. He says the problem must be the person, not the clothes. His words piss Han-Aran off, and she tries to smack him with her bag, but he catches it easily. The rich girl demands he give it back. She asks if he knows how expensive her bag is, threatening to kill him if it gets even a scratch. To mess with her, Suh says if she likes it that much, she should have thought twice before swinging it, and she says he couldn't afford it even if he worked for a month. The ex-emperor says she looks a lot like a beggar, and still keeps calling other people that. Suh completely rips her bag apart. The girl's stuff falls to the floor. It's like her soul left her body, and Han-Aran asks if she's just dreaming. With a satisfied smile, he says it's reality. Han-Aran panics when she sees what's left of her bag. The girl can't believe that bastard actually did that. Then she points at Suh. Then she tells her friends to wreck him, but he's an ex-emperor, and he easily dodges a rich girl. Suh picks up his sister, so she doesn't get smacked with a bag. He easily backs away from them. Seeing that little fight, Han-Aran suspects the guy isn't awakened. Suh takes her phone. He's going to check if it recorded properly. On the screen it shows the group of girls laughing at the siblings. A black ball is coming straight at him. The ex-emperor notices right away. Using just one hand, he stops the object, and it drops straight to the ground. Smiling, he asks if she had a bodyguard hiding somewhere, but it's a shame because her phone is in his hands. Suh says she must be from a high-status family, and threatens, asking what would happen if the video got out. He tells her to take it as a warning not to mess with his sister again, and that she should be grateful only the bag ended up getting ruined. Before leaving, the ex-emperor says that if he wanted to, he could wipe them all out right then and there, which scares the mean girls. Away from the commotion, the siblings are sitting down. Suh says she didn't want to show that side of herself. She says they were classmates for all 3 years of high school and never got along. Since Han feels superior, and things got worse in the second year, when her dad's business started doing well, Suh wants to know more, and his sister just says it must have been awful for the other girl. Smiling, Suh says she has an older brother too, a handsome awakened, and he does well at school. She asks why he reacted like that, since he told her she was pretty when she awakened, and the ex-emperor says it was a really emotional moment. Anyway, the girl doesn't care anymore, since it's just Han-Aran showing her inferiority complex because she hates that Suh looks even better. But Suh reveals there might be another reason too, which makes her brother curious. She says that around the end of second year, the guy Han liked rejected her and confessed to Suh said instead. That makes Suh flinch, realizing there was a little love triangle. Soo-hyuk flinch says she obviously refused to go out with him since she didn't have time for romance because of her brother in a coma and her sick mom, so she laughed at Han as revenge. The ex-emperor says he should have ripped her hair out instead of destroying the bag, but his sister says that was already enough. She laughs, telling her oppa he was amazing. Soo-hyuk flinch tells him to think of it as a small step back before a big leap, and that if he gets stronger he can get revenge in an even worse way. The girl stands up and suggests they head back, since their parents must be waiting for them. It's late at night when the family gets home. Everyone's happy about the fun they had. Soo-hyuk asks them to go on ahead because he's going to the convenience store to buy pain patches for his parents, and his sister demands a melon ice cream. The awakened walks calmly down the street, until something catches his attention. It's Han Ar-ruin and her 2 bodyguards. Soo-hyuk says she showed up earlier than he expected. The girl demands that he hand over her phone, and then she'll forget what happened with the bag. He asks if she still doesn't get the warning, but Han Ar-ruin says her patience has limits, and if he keeps this up, her guards will take care of it. She also says the video won't just cause problems for her, since he, as an awakened, attacked her, which is illegal. Soo-hyuk says he didn't do anything, he only used force on a bag, but she hit his sister. Annoyed, Han Ar-ruin says he doesn't want to listen to her. Then she orders her guards to beat up Soo-hyuk and take his phone. The 2 of them rush him. Soo-hyuk just jokes that one of them threw the first punch. He says if they keep it up, he'll count it as self-defense. The awakened gets ready to counterattack, kicking the guard right in the leg. The man freezes right away. Soo-hyuk uses acupressure, since it's the easiest solution. He hits a few pressure points. The man screams as some of his fluid comes out. Then the other guard surprises him, saying it's a stance technique, and that he knows Soo-hyuk became awakened recently. He introduces himself as Kim Man-soo, saying he thought Soo-hyuk was just a regular fighter, and never expected him to use his black marble. Soo-hyuk laughs, calling him dramatic, using that tone like he's recognizing him. Irritated, the man asks if the ex-emperor really doesn't know who he is. Soo-hyuk asks if he's supposed to be impressed, and if that's some hillbilly name he's proud of. Kim Man-soo says he was a candidate for vice president of the Chunhee Guild. With a smile, he says Soo-hyuk is interesting. The guard asks if he thinks that just because he got lucky once, he gets to act arrogant, and declares this is on a different level from a fist fight. Then he throws one of his balls. Soo-hyuk stays alert as the object comes flying at him, but he easily dodges it. The black marble destroys the wall it hit, so the ex-emperor realizes it's an iron sphere, and the person using it, the blacklight sphere Mukwangu, a rank 10 awakener who retired after losing the vice president race, and with no more activity never leveled up. But if he'd kept going he could have done it easily, and they say his instant destructive power when he throws those spheres beats Mugi. Kim Man-soo says his performance is impressive. He says that at first he thought his enemy had blocked it by luck, but he realizes he was wrong. Kim Man-soo knows he's the guy, the famous masked hero No Name. Still, the surprising thing is that Kim Man-soo says he doesn't want to be his enemy, which ends up pissing off Han Ar-ruin. So he replies that he'll have to cancel his request because he has no desire to fight the other guy. Man-soo says he's happy to meet him even if it's in a really unpleasant situation, and he reveals he's been looking for him for quite a while. He also says this isn't a good place for a long conversation. The man says he'll find him again soon, and hopes they can have a productive talk. But with no interest, Soo-hyuk tells him to keep dreaming, because realistically they're not friends. Man-soo asks him not to cut him off so coldly. The ex-emperor keeps saying he's not interested, and asks if he hasn't heard about his reputation. Man-soo says he's heard a lot of things, including about the fight with the Amugi Guild. The man's attitude still makes the ex-emperor suspicious, so the bodyguard says not to be so sensitive, because he has his sources. He says that anyway he thought he was dealing with some problem, but he ended up catching a big fish. Back to Han Ar-ruin. She wonders what she should do, since in the end the fight turned into a friends meetup. Her first move is to run, but Soo-hyuk is faster and surprises her by asking where she's going. Again he says that if he wanted to get rid of her, it would be easy, which makes the girl even more terrified. He hits her right where it hurts. Han Ar-ruin falls to the ground holding her own throat. Soo-hyuk explains that he blocked her pressure point, so she can't speak. The girl makes a gesture, and he tries to guess if she's begging for mercy. In no rush to end things, the ex-emperor says he could make her suffer for as long as he wanted, or break something else, but he doesn't want that. Soo-hyuk says he's not the one who's going to punish her. Her sister is. Han Ar-ruin starts trembling even more, and he tells her to wait, because he's going to make her realize that everything she believes is meaningless. The girl stays on the ground crying. Not even the person hired to be her guard does anything. Far away from there, in a luxurious mansion, the man asks if he failed to recover the video. With his head down, the bodyguard doesn't answer. Han Gi-jae, a member of the National Assembly, in a threatening voice says he could be thrown into the sea off Incheon, and complains about him not being able to do a simple job. All the other man does is apologize. Gi-jae asks about Man-soo, and finds out he simply ran off, making the old man vent his anger with a punch on the table. Annoyed, the man promises that as soon as he becomes president, he'll put collars on the awakeners. Gi-jae asks if he heard anything else, and the bodyguard says the voices were too low to make anything out. The old man calls him useless, and dismissing him, tells him to call his daughter. A little scared, the guy says Arun doesn't want to come. That irritates the old man, and the bodyguard says he'll leave things like that for now. The phone rings with a call from Kim Man-soo. As soon as he picks up, he asks why the man was in such a hurry to leave the job unfinished, and he replies that it wasn't just some stupid thing to deal with. Kim Man-soo says he should have assessed the target, and asks if the man knows his request fee blew way past the budget. DJ laughs, asking if taking out a newly awakened is too much for him, and the other asks if he has any idea that even newbies can be dangerous, but the man says that even so he didn't expect the great Kim to complain about it. Man-soo says he called because he cares and couldn't ignore it. Then he reveals the kid is No Name. Realizing he understands the danger, the awakener tells him not to make enemies he doesn't need. Man-soo hangs up while the scared man processes the information. He even smashes his phone on the floor. Gije is pissed at the way the other guy treated him, a member of the National Assembly. On another day, Soo-hyuk is on a call with Shin-woo, who's been busy for quite a while. The vice president says he heard about the situation involving Park Mugi and apologizes for not keeping an eye on the one-eyed guy. Shin-woo asks if the ex-emperor got hurt badly, and Soo-hyuk says if he had, he wouldn't be on the phone. What's good for the vice, who has a request to make? He asks the guy about the Tranon dimension, which he confirms. The redhead says that then he must also know the rumor that they're about to shut it down. Shin-woo says the main guilds have already requested entry and access to the magic tools that are still in testing for another month. But he reveals that for them it'd be ready in half the time. Shin-woo says Korea needs a hero, and that No Name is a great title, so he asks if he plans on being one. Soo-hyuk thinks about the possibility of being a hero, but he's in, and ready to be one. Soo-hyuk isn't someone who fits the role of a hero. He never loved the world, but even so they called him that. Still, it doesn't suit him. But if creating a hero is just a way to bring stability to Korea, then he can accept it. After all, this is for his family. There are only 15 days left until the Trana dimension opens. Until then, he needs to get even stronger. Martial arts need 3 main elements: mind, skill, and body. Like a warrior at his peak, he mastered the last 2. But for Soo-hyuk, what's left is the mind, his inner energy, and nothing takes more time than cultivating that. The minimum requirement to reach the transcendent level is 60 years of energy, and building it up the normal way takes 5 more years. Soo-hyuk wonders how he can wait 5 years unless he had something big, like the Shaolin elixir. Thinking about the item gave him an idea. He believes it could work. Soo-hyuk goes to the station. It's been a long time since he's been there. This building is known as Cosmo Sales, a market that sells products from other dimensions besides Earth. Finding the great elixir from Earth is almost impossible, but if it's from another dimension, that's a different story. Mana potions can quickly restore part of a person's energy, so he can guarantee at least 30 years of inner energy. Soo-hyuk walks through the building. The first floor is still as shocking as ever. He recently bought a quad bike there, and its high price is because it was built by dwarves. Soo-hyuk takes the escalator to the 3rd floor. On one side, a seller is yelling, selling dragon leather. On the other, someone offers all kinds of transformation stones. Soo-hyuk turns down all the offers because none of that interests him. The section is full of street vendors, and all he wants is to know where they sell potions. He notices someone with really cute pointy little ears, and then a cat-like tail. A feline hybrid is leaning against the wall. His face turns red when he realizes it's a beastkin. It's pretty rare to see non-humans there, and even so, people don't seem to notice. So Soo-hyuk decides to go check. His approach is noticed right away. That's how he finds out the creature is trying to hide her presence. The beastkin smiles, curious about how her presence was sensed. Soo-hyuk finds out it's a stealth skill. The kitty calls to him and says what he's looking for is right there. That leaves the ex-emperor surprised, since he didn't say anything, and he wants to understand how she knows what he wants. The beastkin takes out the mana potion, leaving Soo-hyuk pretty shocked. She says that among her people she has the best eyesight, being a shaman, and says it's even stranger that the boy found her first. Still impressed, Soo-hyuk asks the price of the item. The cat says it costs 300 million won. He yells that that's way too expensive. The beastkin says it's a premium product she made personally, guaranteeing its effectiveness. After all, she hardly ever makes them. She wishes him luck since this is the last one. Soo-hyuk asks if her vision allows mind reading, and she says she doesn't try to do that, but she can understand him, and that for some reason she can tell his place is higher than it looks. So the ex-emperor realizes that maybe she can see even his past life, and as far as he knows, only black oracles can do that. In the end, Soo-hyuk agrees to pay the 300 million and trust her. The beastkin says he's really cute and that his voice is shaking. That makes the ex-emperor even redder. He says that has nothing to do with it, but that this feels weird. Then he asks if he can touch her fur. The feline asks if he's some kind of pervert, but he tries to defend himself, saying it just looks soft. She asks him if he shouldn't at least introduce himself before making a request like that. Then she introduces herself as Nae. Soo-hyuk also tells her his name. Nae says humans always have such weird names, but either way she'll remember his. She asks if he isn't trying to touch something weird, and the ex-emperor denies it. Still, the cat girl offers a handshake. Soo-hyuk asks if that means they're becoming friends, and she agrees, saying she doesn't befriend just anyone. He can feel how soft her fur is. Nae stares at him in a scary way. The ex-emperor defends himself, saying he just likes soft, fluffy things. Soo-hyuk is back at his house. Lying on the bed, he thinks about how amazing beaskin are, about their unique looks and the feel of their fur that he can't forget, and thinking that when he moves he should get a cat. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk watches this scary scene. It's time to find out if it really works. In his hand, a potion worth an insane 300 million won. Normally this kind of thing is an emergency item for mages or espers, helping restore energy when they're exhausted. It's expensive for a one-time use, but nothing's better for boosting internal energy. Soo-hyuk hopes everything goes well. After drinking the potion, he quickly feels the energy flowing through his body. The elixir is the real deal, nothing like those cheap fake knockoffs. Soo-hyuk hopes to absorb it all without wasting a single drop. His skills level up with the martial arts upgrade. He can evolve to an even higher grade. Purification hits 100%, and his internal energy doubles. The Heaven and Earth unification technique has amazing synergy with a purified body. As for bone renewal, it's in progress at 1-2. If Soo-hyuk builds up 3 more years of internal energy, he'll soon reach his goal of transcendent rank. The martial god is at level 38. Reaching 100% purification unlocked new possibilities. A body with perfect energy flow is something everyone who uses martial arts dreams of. On the Huan continent, reaching this level on its own was enough to be considered a superhuman. He couldn't even do it. Soo-hyuk wants to know the second requirement to complete bone renewal. He's shocked by what it demands. Strength, endurance, and agility all have to go over 200. To reach that through leveling, he'd need to be at least level 180. Soo-hyuk knows that focusing on that will take forever, but at least he has training. Still, he needs to take it one step at a time. And so 15 days pass. Soo-hyuk drives his ATV in a hurry. After all, the promised day is getting close. Through Heaven and Earth unification, his internal energy increased by 2 years. Finally, it's time to prove his worth in the Trana dimension. The portal is in an area controlled by the military. As soon as he approaches, he's told to stop and identify himself. The soldier asks if he's a hunter, so Soo-hyuk shows his ID. He's cleared to enter, and before that he needs to register his license. Someone behind the ex-emperor calls out to him. The man is an aide to Vice President Kim Young-soo, who's there to guide him. Then he asks Soo-hyuk to come with him. The portal looks more powerful than the others, bigger, with an even more intense light. Young-soo warns him that there's someone inside waiting to help him. Soo-hyuk finds it odd, but the aide explains it's because he'll be using new equipment. The ex-emperor remembers they said it would come from Elvenheim, and if there are elves, he considers the possibility it's Shahar. Either way, he's ready for it. Soo-hyuk steps into the huge portal. The place is being colonized. Soo-hyuk crosses into the other dimension. Finally seeing what the place is like, he soon notices the atmosphere here is different. Soo-hyuk remembers his assistant is waiting for him on the 3rd floor of the inn. Looking at the people around him, he wonders if all the Awakeners went out hunting. Either way, he drives his ATV. He arrives at what he believes is his assistant's inn. After parking, he goes inside. And that's when he finds out why everything felt empty. Since a lot of people are in there, someone calls out to him, asking if he came alone. The man explains the 1st floor is packed, and reminds him the 2nd is too, even though it's more expensive. Soo-hyuk just says he wants to go to the 3rd, leaving the man startled, as he explains that besides requiring a reservation, it's more expensive. He says the place has private rooms with magical soundproofing, mainly used by VIPs and important figures. The attendant says reservations are mandatory, and he'd have to check the schedule, so Soo-hyuk explains he has company. That leaves the guy impressed, and he says Soo-hyuk should have said that earlier, so he asks Soo-hyuk to follow him, and asks his name. The clerk looks up the former emperor's name. Kim Ji-won is his guide, and says the company arrived not long ago, asking him to follow. Soo-hyuk is impressed to have an employee dedicated only to guests on the 3rd floor. He's impressed by how different the place is compared to the 1st floor. Definitely capitalism in action. Ji-won shows him his room, 328, and kindly explains that if he needs anything, he just has to press the button. But all Soo-hyuk can focus on is the person sitting there waiting for him. His assistant still hasn't shown up yet. The smell is familiar, and he thinks it's Shahar. But the elf who introduces herself is Sereniel, 2nd disciple of Kal Aluriert, the 1st finger. Calling him warrior, she says she's heard a lot about him, and that it's an honor to meet him. That introduction leaves Soo-hyuk speechless. Noticing how awkward it got, the elf apologizes for the way she spoke, explaining she's not good at dealing with others. But the former emperor tries to say that's not it, and then suggests she sit. The room is completely private, like the guide said. They're sitting across from each other with tea served. Sereniel explains that the drink is made with gold moon leaves grown by the Elaine clan. It's rare on Earth, and the elf brought it for him as a special offering. That special product is more expensive than gold. That really makes Soo-hyuk feel like a big deal. After tasting it, he says they should get straight to the point. The elf agrees, dropping the formalities. Soo-hyuk asks if she has a magic tool that detects cosmo energy, something he heard about. Serenial searches for something in her clothes. She shows him the artifact, explaining that even though it's a test model, it works well with rank 7 portals and below. The elf says they call it Under the Shadow of the World Tree, but since humans found it first, he can just call it Shadow. Despite the level limit, she says that problem will be solved soon. After all the explanation, Soo-hyuk asks her to activate it, because even if it's an island, finding it won't be easy. Serenial then activates the scanner. The elf says a few words in a different language while keeping her hands over the item. She's really focused on it. With more words, the energy gets stronger. Its rays spread out to other areas. Something really surprises the former emperor. He looks at the map of the continent of Trana that forms in front of him. Soo-hyuk can see a mountain highlighted, but he doesn't know the area's geography, so he can't figure out the exact location. Suddenly, something catches his attention. The elf seems off, and he asks if she's okay. Serenial answers that she's fine, and just needs to rest a little. She says the most important thing is that she found the Cosmo energy 300 kilometers away in the Presa mountain range, and asks if he wants to go right away. But Soo-hyuk would rather leave the next day. The elf says he shouldn't delay because he's worried about her, but the former emperor says they can't go because he's tired. Serenial just stays quiet about it. Then Soo-hyuk says they'll leave very early, and before he leaves, the elf asks him to wait. She explains that this is his room. The elf stands up saying her room is next door, and says goodbye to him. It doesn't take long for the first rays of sunlight to appear, coming in through the window and lighting up the room. Soo-hyuk has been awake for a while. He notices someone approaching. The former emperor opens the door to greet Serenial, and asks if she's feeling okay. She confirms and thanks him for the concern, so Soo-hyuk, happy to hear it, asks if they can leave now. Serenial is already ready for it. The two walk to the vehicle. Soo-hyuk thinks a quad bike is a bit tight for two people. He asks if it's okay for her to ride behind him, and the elf asks what he means by that. A little awkward, he explains that she should hold on so she doesn't fall. Soo-hyuk speeds up his quad bike, and just like that, the two set off on the mission. Passing through the almost deserted city, someone asks if the two of them left. Ji-won confirms he saw it with his own eyes. The bald guy says he'll get paid when this is over, but Ji-won reminds him the deal was to pay up front. But the man says if an elf is involved, that's worth 1 billion won more. The guide tries one more time to say that wasn't the agreement, making the big guy shut him up. With a smile, the bald guy asks if he didn't say he keeps his promises. Scared, Ji-won explains that's not what he meant. The bald guy tells him not to throw his life away out of stubbornness. But Ji-won is pissed that the guy grabbed his info and walked off, trying to see if things will go the way he wants. Meanwhile, on the empty road, the duo follows the treasure route on the ATV. Serenial gives the directions first. Go straight for 17 kilometers, turn right, and keep going until 20 kilometers. Soo-hyuk notices some weird movement. Furious monsters are coming to attack them. Up front, come the giant rats. Serenial uses the gnome spell, clearing a path for them through the monsters. The creatures also get hit. She uses water spirit Undine, making a creature appear. The rats get attacked by the element. Soo-hyuk wonders if she's summoning spirits and wants to know what the elf's power is. An even bigger rat shows up. Things only get worse for them. He tries to dodge the monster. Once again, the elf summons the gnome spell, making a small earth spirit appear, but the big rat pushes back against it. Serenial is surprised he broke her barrier so fast. Soo-hyuk, wondery running through his whole body, says he'll handle it. The monster screams when it realizes he's coming straight at it, and he's ready to punch it. Soo-hyuk one hits it with Wind Fist, blowing a huge hole through the monster. The creature drops to the ground. Soo-hyuk is pissed, and asks how it dares try to take his 800 million. The elf, though, is impressed to see a wind spirit, which is impossible for a human. But the Awakener explains it's not real, that he's just gathering air with his energy, and firing it forward. Even so, she's still impressed because he just talked about chi explosions, which take serious skill, and he uses it like it's nothing. The elf knows he's getting even stronger, and now she gets why her master spoke so highly of him. Soo-hyuk realizes something's wrong. A fireball comes flying toward them, hitting the ground with an explosion. The ex-emperor was faster and managed to save both of them. Soo-hyuk asks Serenial if she's okay, and still a bit confused about what just happened. She says yes and thanks him. Some cars are coming toward them. The elf asks if the ex-emperor knows them, but he was about to ask the same thing. Soo-hyuk notices the vehicles have a magical defense barrier, which means attacking head-on isn't a good idea. He asks the elf if she can drive, and luckily she has a dimensional driver's license. Soo-hyuk asks how much experience she has, and not really understanding, she says about 3 years. So Serenial takes over driving the ATV. He also checks if she can get past the two cars. With her confirming, the Awakener tells her to speed up. The cars are about to meet. One of the enemies holds an item. He's sure they're charging straight into their deaths, so the thug throws the stone. It hits the ground and shatters into a bunch of pieces. The other enemy uses his skill, a kind of sandy fog. Serenial tells him to hold on. She makes a quick swerve, escaping both traps. Soo-hyuk smiles at the good teamwork. Then he jumps straight onto the car, freaking out the thugs when they realize there's something on the roof. Soo-hyuk grabs part of the car, using energy to get more strength. The bald guy, seeing that, thinks he's crazy and has a death wish. Soo-hyuk keeps straining to rip the roof off, but the bald guy says he's an idiot for trying to break it since it's reinforced steel forged by dwarves. With all his effort, Soo-hyuk manages to do it, leaving his enemy shocked. Then he tells the thugs to attack the ex-emperor. One of them volunteers to handle it, firing a fireball at Soo-hyuk, and the ex-emperor uses the roof as a shield, the material holding up against the heat of the fireballs. When the attack ends, he tosses the item aside. Soo-hyuk grabs one of the passengers in the car, making the bald guy freak out at him. But that's not the only thing he has to worry about. They're heading straight for a huge stone barrier. Then the car crashes. Serenial gives a small smile at the job well done. The bald guy is terrified they really lost that easily, but he's not going to let that happen. The big guy then jumps out of the car. When he lands, his feet are like rocks. With his transformation, he promises to finish off the skinny bastard. His size is terrifyingly huge. Soo-hyuk smiles. After all, it's been a while since his last fight with a transformer. The stone giant charges at him. Soo-hyuk dodges so he doesn't get crushed, staying well away from that creature. The former emperor notices his body feels way too stiff. Serenial is back because she knows the stone man is stronger than he looks. Soo-hyuk thinks the enemy is rank 10, realizing it'd be reckless to face him head-on. Suddenly, he notices something terrifying. The stone man simply vanished. They look back, sensing something coming up from underground. Then the big guy catches them off guard with a sneak attack. The two of them jump before getting crushed, but his 800 million won quad bike wasn't so lucky. It saved his life with that jump. Even so, he's really pissed because his whole fortune got wrecked, so he asks the elf to step back for a moment. Soo-hyuk intends to turn him back into a human, then he jumps, moving way too fast straight at the stone man. Soo-hyuk throws a kick, but he ends up hitting air. The stone man isn't there anymore. He was too fast for Soo-hyuk to even notice. Then the enemy comes up from underground, trying another surprise attack, but the former emperor manages to block in time. Soo-hyuk has no idea when he got behind him. At least he knows the enemy is digging through the ground like a mole to attack. Soo-hyuk thinks he can use a double skill just like Park Mugi. While attacking the big guy, he taunts him, saying he dodges like a rat. The former emperor stops a few meters from him. Soo-hyuk needs to break through that tough skin first, and there's only one way. He goes for a direct attack. The former emperor figures if the outside is too hard, he has to destroy the inside, using his internal destruction technique for that. But the big guy surprises him and asks if he really thought he was the only one who knows how to take something apart from the inside. Soo-hyuk gets put in a bad spot. Then the stone man attacks. Worried by what she's seeing, Serenial screams for the warrior. With an evil grin, the stone man says it's her turn. He says he'd love to take her away somewhere for some alone time, but he's not a patient man. The elf is determined to bring this monster down and save the warrior, and there's only one way to do it. Serenial is going to ask the spirits for help. The stone man tells her not to worry, because he'll send her straight to her friend. He attacks the elf. Dust rises up, making a curtain. Nothing happened to Serenial from the attack. Little by little, she starts to understand what happened. In front of her is Soo-hyuk, holding back the blow. The stone man looks pretty shocked, and Soo-hyuk doesn't miss the chance to taunt him, asking if he's ever heard of this. That softness beats hardness, and a flexible approach can defeat brute force. Soo-hyuk figures he got careless earlier, because he never imagined a weird octopus like him would be that strong. The former emperor also says that judging by his strength he's rank 12, which makes the enemy mad. Then the stone man tries to attack him, but for some reason it doesn't work. He can't even move, and Soo-hyuk says if he'd fought him at least 2 weeks ago, it probably would have been different, but this time it's different. Soo-hyuk asks if he knows that every space in the world has lines, and that they aren't infinite. He says they bend, break, then reconnect, and asks if he knows what the space between those lines is called. Then Soo-hyuk answers that they're called fractures. Then the former emperor touches a spot. He says even the toughest rock, standing firm for more than 1,000 years, will break if the fractures are weak, and then the stone man starts to crack. So Soo-hyuk promises his days as an awakened end right there. The crack keeps getting bigger. Then the man falls to the ground. He can't believe what's happening to his body. Terrified, he wonders if his power is really leaving forever. The ex-stone man begs for it to be returned. And with that, the rage of Li Woo-jin and his gang came to an end. With their abilities removed, they're nothing, just pathetic, useless criminals. There's a mark on the bald guy's arm. Through the interrogation, they learned something else. They were members of Magnus, a famous international crime guild. Most of them weren't even registered with the Awakened Association. That's because Magnus has secretly been creating awakened individuals, or even stealing them from the association and wiping their records. Soo-hyuk knows that kind of operation would be impossible without an insider, so he needs to talk to Shin-woo about it. The criminals are put into the car one by one. Soo-hyuk thinks they'll have a rough time over the next few days, but he doesn't care. He wonders if this kind of thing makes Serenial uncomfortable. The elf just asks them to leave. Soo-hyuk asks if it's to the trapped mountain, and she confirms, saying they still need to find the Cosmo energy. He agrees, but there's still the problem in the back of the car. With a deadly look, Serenial says a group of criminals like this deserves to suffer, leaving them pretty terrified. Relieved, Serenial says he'll move forward as planned. So they head out on the mission together with the gang, heading to the mountain in search of the Cosmo Energy. Back at the inn, the first floor is packed as always. Then someone walks in. Andreev and his goons draw everyone's attention. He says the rumor is true that the person he's looking for is in this dimension, and asks how he can track him down. People are scared after all. One of the Universal 8 is there. Andreev smiles and tells them to relax. He and his goons go up the stairs, heading to the most luxurious floor. Suddenly someone calls out to him. It's Jaewong, saying he has something very important to tell him. Andreev looks at him and says humans are really fascinating, and that emotions alone can replace control and make people act. The guide is confused by what he said. Then the blonde says it was nothing, and he just wants to know what he has to tell him. Jaewong reveals that the man he's looking for left earlier with an elf, and that the Magnus Guild went after them. He also praises the elf's beauty, and tells Lord Vladimir that he'd like her too. Andreev grows thoughtful at his words, which makes Jaewong think he'll accept it. Plus the guide is feeling like the day is amazing, because he never imagined he'd talk to someone from the Universal 8. Then Andreev's answer comes like a knife. The blonde just laments that he almost got his white suit dirty. He was only curious how far Jaewong's greed would go, but in the end he's just a piece of trash tied up with Magnus. Andreev demands that someone clean up the mess immediately. Meanwhile, at the peak of Blackfang, it had been a full week of searching for the Cosmo Energy. Soo-hyuk defeated several monsters to get there, but still no sign. Until he notices something wrong with the water drop. He looks up and sees something terrifying. On the ceiling is a huge bat. The creature notices their presence. It flies toward the two of them. Then it lets out a supersonic scream. Serenial is affected by the sound, but everything gets better when Soo-hyuk puts his hands over her ears. He asks the elf to stay still, explaining that the barrier will block soundwave attacks for a while. The giant bat gets furious and attacks. Serenial realizes Cosmo Energy is coming off the monster. Soo-hyuk knows this is the boss, and wonders if that thing was called a flame bat. He knows a fist wind strike won't be enough. In that case there's still something he can do. The Awakener fires at the bat, using fist wind barrage. It's like several circles of light, but the boss counterattacks with a flaming scream. Soo-hyuk dodges before he gets turned into a skewer. That's when he realizes the bat is powering up, so he'll have to go beyond the limit. Soo-hyuk runs toward the monster, ready to use fist wind barrage. The bat screams as it attacks. Then Soo-hyuk strikes it, hurting the creature with his power. Serenial watches the fight. Impressed, the giant bat falls at his feet. Soo-hyuk looks at the creature and says that without its wings, there's nothing special about it. He still has a job to finish. Finally defeating the flame bat. With the mission over, his level goes up. Even after using several wind strikes, his internal energy is still full because the recovery rate is insane. Even though it's low, it's basically like it's unlimited. His eyes light up at what he sees. He searches the flame bat's body. Soo-hyuk picks up a huge crystal and asks if it's the Cosmo Energy. Serenial, who's nearby, confirms the item recovery is complete. The ex-emperor wants to destroy it and close the portal, but first he has to contact the association to get the awakened out of there. Serenial also finds a mana stone dropped by the bat. They defeated about 1,000 monsters on Blackfang Ridge, most of them low-level rodents. But mana stones are a different story. Just last week, Soo-hyuk got 11 6-star ones. Serenial says it's no surprise it looks special, because those mana stones are strong, and you could get a 7-star jewel with them, which is great for Soo-hyuk since it can be sold for 160 million, and they've got 11 collected from monsters, plus a potential 7-star. Adding it all up, that's over 2.08 billion won, and even after taxes there'll be enough left for him to buy another ATV. Serenial shocks him by saying she won't accept her share, since elves don't need Earth money, just a few permissions. She hands over the stone and says that either way he defeated more monsters. Still, Soo-hyuk doesn't think it's right not to split it, and the elf says if it really bothers him, then he should visit Elvenheim someday. Serenial also says that if he really does that, he could teach her a bit of martial arts. She says she's not good at fighting like her master, and the ex-emperor says she's a mage, and he finds out Shahar is one too. The elf says she can't explain it, but she notices a difference between his martial arts and his master's, and that she doesn't have much talent for it. She says she doesn't want to be a burden on the battlefield. With a small smile, Soo-hyuk says that when the time comes he'll stop by, but right now they need to head back. The trip is done by car. Driving down the empty road, with the headlights lighting up the night, soon the meeting spot comes into view. Serenial is watching through the window. Then she surprises the warrior by saying he can drop her off there. Soo-hyuk doesn't look happy that it's time for them to split up. But even so, he does what the elf asked. Serenial thanks him for managing to complete her mission safely. Soo-hyuk thanks her too, saying things got a lot calmer for him as well, and hoping they'll meet again someday. The elf asks if he hadn't promised to visit Elvenheim, and he confirms it. Then she says that even if it's not by chance, they'll see each other again, and they hope the meeting will be under better circumstances. Once again, Soo-hyuk says goodbye to his mission partner. Then she says he can call her Riel, that is, when they meet next time. The guy ends up speechless. but he ends up agreeing to her small request. Meanwhile, the goons can't take any more of being the third wheel for the two of them. So it's official. The duo mission is over. Soo-hyuk grabs his mask. He thinks it's time to finally use it. The ex-emperor remembers Shin-woo told him a hero needs a bit of spectacle. Then he puts on his mask and floors the accelerator, ready to put on a little show. The exit from this dimension is right up ahead. Then he crosses the portal with the Magnus Guild, quickly passing to the other side, finally returning to Earth. Up ahead, a bunch of people are already waiting for him. Having to brake, the goons end up getting thrown from side to side, and people are curious to know more. They crowd around the car. As soon as he gets out, Soo-hyuk has the energy out for everyone to see, leaving people impressed when they learn it's from the Tranan dimension, but they still don't know who did it. Then No Name shows himself to everyone. People say that by grabbing the Cosmo energy first, the hero beat Vladimir, but there are still doubts about whether this is really real. Young Soo-hyuk thanks the hero for what he did, and asks him to wait a moment while they verify the item. Using the machine, they confirm the Cosmo energy is real. The aide is happy with the good work. There's no way to doubt it anymore. Then young Soo-hyuk celebrates that No Name recovered the Cosmo energy from the Tranan dimension, leaving everyone totally shocked by what they're hearing. But then they start shouting the hero's name. Still at the site, the Blood Prince gets the news about young Soo-hyuk's departure. Surprised, Andreev asks if the kid hadn't entered the dimension recently. He gives a small smile, but he's consumed by rage at being outdone, having to admit that No Name is really good. He's also mad at Oh Shen-woo. Andreev then declares they're heading back, since there's no reason to stay anymore. The blonde guy, as always, walks with his two goons. Andreev notices people's looks. They think the blonde guy isn't anything special after all. He got outdone by No Name. But Vladimir thinks they're pathetic for being incompetent, just riding other people's success to feel superior. He's not there just to clean up the dimension. Andreev thinks that for someone with that much influence, Baekmugen could be pretty dangerous. For him, things only got even more interesting. Meanwhile, Magnus's goons get arrested. Young Soo tells them to hurry before the reporters swarm the place. The vice president finally arrived. Young Soo asks him to come with him. Shin-woo opens the tent, finding Soo-hyuk waiting there. With a bright smile, the redhead says he heard he put on one hell of a show. The hero says a little showing off wouldn't hurt. Shin-woo asks if he liked it, but Soo-hyuk just thinks he really doesn't mind staying out of it. Anyway, the vice congratulates him on the good work, and says the association will handle the rest. The ex-emperor then brings up Magnus. Shin-woo smiles awkwardly. That's when Soo-hyuk realizes he already knew. After all, they're an international crime syndicate. Laughing a bit nervously, the vice asks him not to look at him like that, because sometimes it feels like the hero could punch him at any moment. Then he apologizes and admits he's known about Magnus's Korean branch for a long time. Shin-woo says that unlike the others, they haven't done anything big, but that's not what the ex-emperor wants to hear. The vice says they got orders from people higher up that they should keep quiet about it, because the name Magnus carries weight, and if everything got out, the bosses would have problems. He also reveals that just saying this is putting his job and maybe even his life at risk. Soo-hyuk asks if the higher-up he means is the association president, but he can't say. Still, the ex-emperor tries again, asking if it's someone even higher than that. Shin-woo warns that he could lose his position because of this. Because there are complicated political factors involved, he apologizes, saying he could have kept the hero out of this, and promises it won't happen again. The redhead doesn't want to put him in that kind of spot, and Soo-hyuk decides to believe him for now. Shin-woo wants to ask something after hearing that Lee Woo-jin and the rest of the members can't use their powers. He asks if that was the hero's doing, so without beating around the bush, Soo-hyuk just confirms it. Impressed, the redhead asks if that's really possible, but he promises he won't spread it, even though people might find out soon anyway, since it's not the kind of thing they want drawing attention right now. Soo-hyuk just agrees with his decisions. Changing the mood, Shin-woo says his ranking will be revealed the next day, along with the money that'll go into his account. Soo-hyuk is also reminded about losing his 800 million won ATV. The redhead says the SUV Magnus was using will be repaired, registered by the association, and handed over to him. Even though it was used by criminals, it's probably more expensive than his ATV, plus it has resistance to magic attacks and other stuff. Soo-hyuk figures the base price is at least 2 billion won or more, and that offer is really good for him. Shin-woo notices it genuinely made the hero happy, and the ex-emperor confirms it. Losing his ATV left a hole in his soul. With a lot of excitement, he accepts. Shin-woo says it's a gift for a national hero, and it's the least they can do. Then he says he'll call him when the repairs are done. Soo-hyuk is at the bus stop. Soo-hyuk what he needs shows up. It had been a while since he'd ridden one. Even though he lost an ATV in the Tranan dimension, he can't say he feels bad about it. The results were so good he feels like he's walking on air. While his parents are surprised he got back from the trip early, his sister only has eyes for the food. Nights like this remind Soo-hyuk that happiness isn't that far away. Finally, the next day arrives. Light fills the room through the window. Soo-hyuk is woken up by the sound of his phone. He wonders who would message him this early. Then he finds out it's a deposit notification in his account. The guy yells when he sees he received 1.6 billion won. Soo-hyuk shouts, "Long live Korea," way too happy about what he just saw. He really didn't expect this. On top of that, the association covered the car expenses, and now he'll finally have time to use it with his family. This is all he needs. But in the middle of celebrating, Soo-hyuk notices he has a message. It's Shin Woo saying the rank up process is complete. Soo-hyuk quickly replies that he's on his way. Right now he's rank 8 and waiting for a 2-level bump. Almost getting to gold. The Awakener stretches out ready for the dial. Meanwhile, Shin Woo gives an interview saying, no name entered the Tranon dimension alone. Thanks to that mission, his name is all over the media. People won't stop talking about it, even making a fan club for the hero, and he wonders if that's what Shin Woo wants. Soo-hyuk arrives at the association building. The redhead hands him a ring. He says only 5 people in Korea have used the item. Soo-hyuk has heard about it, but seeing it in person is pretty impressive. Shin Woo says the ring is made of mithril, and that even though it's smaller than the bracelet, it's more complex and advanced. He adds that they only give the item to rank 12 or higher, and Soo-hyuk wants to understand why he was given it. Then the redhead congratulates him for being rank 13, which only Bak Mu-chok reached, and he's officially recognized as the number 7 awakened. Hearing that leaves Soo-hyuk completely shocked, something never seen in history, and Shin Woo believes he can still level up even more. Being in the top 10 guarantees privileges, being treated as a national asset with equivalent treatment and benefits. The association will also provide a personal secretary, a driver, and a luxury sedan. Soo-hyuk doesn't need the car, so he thinks about giving it to his dad. On top of that, there are lower interest rates on loans and government housing support for under 500 million won. But what makes his heart race is that there's no way he's handing all his money over in taxes. Shin Woo says he's looking forward to working with him, and Soo-hyuk feels the same way. You can hear his sister's voice outside. Soo-hyuk is surprised he jumped from rank 7 straight to 12. The ex-emperor confirms it's true, and she's impressed with her brother. She asks what she should do because she wants to brag about him, and Soo-hyuk tells her she can do whatever she wants. But he wants her to tell their parents first. Soo-hyuk asks if she can be the one to tell them, which makes her brother think. Soo-hyuk tells her not to, because it'll shock the old folks. The girl asks if it isn't time to tell their parents already. She suggests telling their mom right then, since it'll be easier than with their dad. Soo-hyuk thinks it's a good idea. Either way, he'd been waiting for the right moment. He reached gold rank, so he knows it's fair to tell their parents, even though he's nervous, and he follows his sister's advice that it'll be easier with their mom. Meditating, his inner energy reached 1 gapja, and without rushing, he'll tell them when the time is right. He unlocked the trait, compound interest increase of inner energy from the heaven and earth fusion art. Normally this technique's absorption efficiency is below average, but thanks to constant training, he surpassed the others. Even if there are better techniques, none match the long-term returns of compound growth. Soo-hyuk is glad he focused on mastering one thing instead of bouncing around. Finally, he can say he can use real martial arts, but he doesn't plan to stop. After all, the human body is like steel forged very thin, easy to damage. Still, the right amount of pressure only makes it stronger. People say there's a limit, but there aren't any fixed walls. Someone stops in front of him. Soo-hyuk asks him to identify himself. It's Andrei Vladimir, who says it's great to finally meet him. The ex-emperor realizes that even though he looks human, and he says he didn't think monsters like that still existed in this world, Andreev smiles, saying it's been a long time since he was called that, a powerful creature with supernatural powers. He says it's very rare for someone to notice him, especially a human and not a Taoist or a mage. The blonde is caught off guard mid-speech. Soo-hyuk tries to hit him, but he dodges in time. But the ex-emperor doesn't stop. Andreev is surprised he noticed, since he always casts a mental spell first. He asks the ex-emperor to calm down, but Soo-hyuk says he hasn't even started yet, and says for someone from Universal 8 complaining doesn't fit. Andreev is surprised he knows about him. The ex-emperor doesn't have time for conversation. He grabs the blonde by the shirt using the muscle technique. Then he slams him hard into the ground. Andreev spits red liquid from the impact of the blow. He's impressed by what's happening. This has become impressive to him. The Prince of Darkness only meant to mess with him, but Soo-hyuk genuinely pissed him off. Andreev traps him inside a magic circle. A red mist rises up toward the former emperor. Now it's his turn to want to understand what's going on. The blonde guy warns that no matter how wild he is, he won't be able to block this. Soo-hyuk feels his body getting filled with this strange energy. Something is happening to him. His karma and core spiritual level are way higher than his targets, so everything balances out. Mental resistance skill activated. The system is resisting the opponent's spell. Rising to rank B, Soo-hyuk's energy wraps around his whole body. In the system window it shows he completely resisted the opponent's magic. Andreev can't believe what just happened. Soo-hyuk then punches him, slamming the monster to the ground. Andreev is shocked that a human managed to resist his mental magic. Soo-hyuk is ready to shut him up, but the Prince of Darkness uses a defense. Even so, he's impressed a human made him spill his vital fluid. That makes him really angry. The villain then gets up, with his evil energy around his body. Now he's going to show his true power. He charges straight at the former emperor, but Soo-hyuk just gives a confident smile. Andreev's attacks get blocked. Leaving the Prince of Darkness impressed, Soo-hyuk shines even brighter. Going on the offensive, he asks the opponent if he's done yet, because now it's his turn to hit back. Everything goes dark for Andreev. Little by little, he can see Soo-hyuk. The former emperor says he finally woke up. Soo-hyuk taunts him, saying it's pathetic to go down from just that, and asks if that's what Universal 8 values. Andreev says he can't believe he's hearing that from a mere human. Then the former emperor, judging by his powers, asks if he's some kind of vampire. The blonde guy just smiles without answering. Andreev looks around, realizing they're in some kind of parking lot, and Soo-hyuk confirms there wasn't anywhere else to throw him. Still, the vampire says he ended up in a sad state. He looks at himself in the mirror, and complains, saying he never thought he'd get beaten up in such a small country. Andreev is curious to know what he is, but Soo-hyuk reminds him the vampire asked first. The blonde guy asks if it isn't pretty obvious just by looking. Soo-hyuk says the world went to hell, if a leech like him is the world's last hope. Andreev says his words were harsh. After all, he really likes humans. But the former emperor thinks it's weird coming from someone who drinks vital fluid like a mosquito. The vampire says at least he doesn't eat people. Soo-hyuk says even so he still leaves people dried out. Andreev says even though he's a vampire, Soo-hyuk is the one scaring him. The former emperor says he doesn't look scared. Then the vampire reveals the reason is because this isn't his real body. That catches Soo-hyuk off guard. Andreev asks if he really thought the true Lord of the Night, the original progenitor, would bring his real body to a dangerous foreign land like this. He says he hasn't done anything that bad to humans, because these days you can't just drink vital fluid since they'll panic. The vampire tells him to believe what he's saying, since it's not like the former emperor would lose anything by doing that. But all Soo-hyuk can think is that this isn't his real body, so he understands why his physical strength was a bit low compared to his magic. He also tried cutting the energy thread while the vampire was unconscious to suppress his powers, but it didn't work. Andreev cuts off his thoughts. The Blood Prince says he cleared up his doubts, and now he wants the Awakened to answer his question. After all, even though he's not a mage, the guy recognized him and resisted his mental magic, so he wants to know what he is. The night in the city is calm. Andreev runs after Soo-hyuk, wanting him to kindly answer his question as a fair business exchange. But the Awakened says he doesn't feel like sharing something about himself with a vampire who tried to take him down first. Lord Vladimir says he doesn't want them to be enemies. For Soo-hyuk, it's a shame it's a clone, because he can't cut his energy properly. He also knows the vampire is strong, and if it were the real body, things could have been different. Just like that, Soo-hyuk regrets being proud of reaching the highest realm, when in truth he's still far from the top. For that there's only one path: become someone so powerful that no one could ever threaten him. By reaching the ultimate realm of harmony, of the stage, he won't have to worry about pests like the vampire. After all, greater strength brings greater freedom. Soo-hyuk understands he needs to get even stronger. Andreev is still there, and asks him to wait so they can go together. People walk down the street calmly. Meanwhile, the vampire follows him, saying there's no reason for them to be enemies. Andreev says he likes him and respects the arrogance of someone who's worthy, thinking it's really cool. He says Soo-hyuk is different from the other Asians he's met, because there's something about him that's unique, making the Awakened uncomfortable. Lord Vladimir gets recognized, causing a commotion, and they even record the two of them. He can't avoid the fame and drags Soo-hyuk into it. Andreev tries again to strike up a friendship between them, and with no patience the Awakened threatens to wipe him out if he takes one step. The vampire says he has no choice because it's the only way to talk to him, while people comment on how strange it is that they're getting close. Soo-hyuk doesn't look very happy about someone whispering that he's Vladimir's type. Besides the guys talking about it, there are several cameras filming him, but there isn't much he can do. He asks the vampire what he wants. Vladimir says he just wants to talk, and asks if he isn't curious to know how he was found. Soo-hyuk suggests they go somewhere else because he hates noise. He knows that if they stay there, people will keep following them. So Soo-hyuk gets the idea to run first, and asks the vampire to chase him. Finally, a quiet place far from the flashes. Andreev asks if people stopped following them, and the Awakener believes so. Then Soo-hyuk notices something. There's a small group around there. Smiling, the vampire says it's just a bunch of punks. One of the boys asks if they've never seen students, and tells them to mind their own business. The blonde girl notices how handsome the two of them are. In the middle of the conversation, she asks if they're actors, since one of them looks familiar. Andreev says they're just kids and they should drop it because they have more important things to talk about. The two plan to leave, irritating one of the boys. They let out a tired sigh, which makes the kid even angrier. Then he goes at them. Soo-hyuk stops him with just one hand, surprising him with his strength. Then he gets thrown against the wall, leaving the girls terrified by the scene. All the boys were easily subdued, and one of them asks them to call the police. Andreev just mocks them, saying kids these days have no idea who they're messing with. Finally, one of them recognizes him. Then the vampire asks the kid if he's finally realized that everything he's doing doesn't matter anymore, leaving the group of punks pretty scared. They apologize as they hurry out of the place. Andreev asks if that doesn't make them friends, but Soo-hyuk doesn't agree, and just wants the vampire to say what he wants and leave. Lord Vladimir promises to limit himself to 3 questions. First, he wants to know how the Awakened got rid of his magic. but Soo-hyuk can't answer yet. The second question is whether he's an origin, but the awakened asks what he means by that. Andreev says that on his profile it says he's a post-portal impact coma patient. But it's strange that his abilities aren't just basic physical upgrades. He says Soo-hyuk definitely isn't like the others. Then the Lord of Darkness asks if he knows anything about mages. Soo-hyuk asks if he means awakeners of that type. Andreev says that's a mistake because they aren't real mages. It's not widely known, but magic existed on Earth even before the portals appeared, and there were practitioners too. True mages don't get their powers through awakening. They either become someone's disciple, or form a bond with a magic tome, and that's how they learn real magic. Andreev says those kinds of people are called purebloods or origins. Soo-hyuk wants to clear up whether, instead of awakening, they're born with supernatural abilities, and he wants to understand what trigger causes that. The Lord of Darkness says that if he doesn't know about those people, then it means he isn't one, so he asks him to forget it. Finally, he gets to the last question. Lord Vladimir asks if he's ever thought about joining the Universal Eight. Soo-hyuk asks if the group is humanity's last line of defense and the strongest ones, and wants to know why they'd want him there. The blonde guy says they don't offer a contract to everyone, but someone has to decide who qualifies. He asks Soo-hyuk if he knows where the group's name comes from, then points at himself. The ex-emperor is surprised to find out it was the vampire who created the group. Lord Vladimir smiles at him, confirming it. Soo-hyuk thinks it's a terrible idea for the last line of defense to be created by a monster, so Andreev reminds him once again that he likes humans. Andreev says that after the dimensional portals opened and Earth merged with other realms, things changed. He says the weaker nations suffered a lot, so he started making contacts and going after proposals, and that's how Universal 8 was created. However, Andreev reveals that he originally planned to recruit up to 10 people, but more people turned him down than he expected. Soo-hyuk is surprised to learn the group isn't at full capacity. Our video ends here. If you liked it, leave your like. See you next time. Bye bye.